Boom, boom. This is, oh. Wait for people to get in here. Oh, look like somebody's in here. There we go. What up, Quentin? How you doing, Daniel? How you fellas doing today? How's everybody out there in the land of Facebook? Wanted to say hello, Brother John. This is Brother John on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church. Hey there, Ashley. How you doing, ma'am? Good to see you there. Hope y'all ready for this evening. Like I told y'all last week, we're gonna have a pretty good lesson, but it's a pretty long lesson. So I hope y'all prepared, got your popcorn ready, and got everything ready. And got your bladders emptied and all that. Well, I guess you can go and while you're in the bathroom, and I won't be able to see that, so I guess it don't matter. But how y'all doing today? I'm, of course, Brother John Stewart on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church. This is a presentation of the Lost Sheep Ministry coming to y'all today, this Saturday, this wonderful Saturday afternoon. It's kind of cool out today, but it's all right, pretty good day. We come to y'all today to bring a lesson on the results of sin. As I promised when I did my broadcast, no, I'm not killing you. No, I'm just playing. When I did my broadcast this past Monday. But just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the results of sin. It's something that we all have in our life. It's something that we all do in our lives, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. But we all do some stuff that we're not supposed to be doing that kind of keeps us away from the Lord. And today I want to talk about the results of that sin. A lot of us, I always like to start this. I always like to start this off by asking the question, especially when I do with the guys in jail. How many of us have done something that has gotten us in trouble before? And of course, show of hands. Of course, I got my hands up. Now, how many of us have done something that gotten us in trouble more than once? The same thing, gotten in trouble for the same thing more than once. Again, I got to raise my hand. Why is that? And that's the question that I want to propose to you guys today. Why is it that we keep doing the same things over and over that keeps getting us in trouble, that keeps bringing drama and problems into our lives, but yet we can't seem to get away from those things, and we just keep doing them over and over? Why is that? And the reason is because we don't see the end game of those things. In other words, we don't see the results of those sins. When we're going through the sins, we be doing the stuff we're not supposed to be doing, it's all hunky-dory, so it's all fine. But if we could see the end results of those things that we're doing and what direction is going to take our lives into, then we would run the opposite direction. But the reason why we don't run the opposite direction is because we don't see the end result. So today I want to look at the life of Samson. Samson was this mighty man. Everybody knows the story of Samson, but there's a lot of elements to Samson, the story of Samson, that we forget to point out. And I'm gonna point out these little indiscretions that Samson had today, because the devil has a way of convincing us that we're so low down and rotten and terrible that we can't do anything for God. So we might as well just live our life the way we want to and just do what we want to do. The devil has always done that for us. It always makes us feel horrible. But my pastor has a way of saying, he said all the time, he said, that God can take a crooked stick and draw a straight line. In other words, you're never too far away from God. You're never such a terrible person. You're never so horrible that you can't do anything from God. Once you make that decision that you want to do something for God, once you make a decision that you want to do something for God and really start living in life to do that, God can use you. But the devil has a way of convincing us to doubt God, doubt God's power, and he convinces us that, oh, you're so terrible, you're so bad that there's nothing you can do for God, so you might well just live your life the way you want to. And he does that. So today we're going to look at this life of Samson. Now, of course, everybody knows the story of Samson, knows he was strong because he had this long hair that he never cut, and we know he was strong. And Samson, even at one point, was mentioned over in the book of Hebrews. There's a chapter in Hebrews that's called the Hall of Faith, the heroes of the faith. And it mentions all the most faithful people through the stories of the Bible. And Samson was one of those people that was mentioned in the Hall of Faith, of the heroes of the faith. Samson was one of those people that was mentioned in the heroes of faith. But when you look at Samson's life, Samson was hard-headed. Samson was basically this hard-headed, rebellious teenager that did everything that he wasn't supposed to do and refused to do the thing that he was supposed to do. But yet, even in the middle of his rebellion, the Lord still used him in a mighty way. And that's what I'm hoping you'll be able to see today, how that you're never too far away from the Lord, but where you can't be used. But at the same time, when you're doing those things that you're not supposed to be doing, that you know you're not supposed to be doing, and you're doing those sins that you're constantly doing, then I want you to also be able to see what results from that. Hey, Miss Rhonda, how you doing? How you doing, Sister Rhonda? It's good to see you here today. But I want you all to see the results of the sin. And a lot of times, if you're able to stick in, like I said, this is going to be a long chapter. It's going to cover 4 chapters, and I debated going back and forth on if I was going to split it up into 2 different lessons. But I would hate for somebody to watch one video and not watch the other, because if you don't make it all the way through to the end, you won't see the whole point. The point that I'm trying to make. So it is going to be a long one. I'm going to do my best to make it short as possible. But it's really important that you see all of it. Hey, Joyce, good to see you as well. But it's really important that you see all of it, because we all have something that we're always dealing with that really keeps us away from God and keep us away from being the good Christian that we can be. So today's lesson is called The Results of Sin, and we're going to look at the entire life of Samson. And that's why I said we got to cover 4 chapters, because Samson's life covers 4 chapters. So I'm going to be in the book of Judges, and I'm going to go through Judges chapter 13 through 16. So for all my church members, I always like to explain this. This is the lost sheep, of course, so I do things a little differently. I definitely, with all my heart, believe in the King James Bible. I believe that it's the holy, inspired Word of God. That's the Bible that I read every day. But for my lost sheep ministry, I'm reaching a lot of time people out of the projects. I'm reaching the gangsters, the thugs, the people in jails. And a lot of times when I do this, I come across a lot of people that are uneducated, maybe dropped out of school for whatever reason, started hustling for whatever reason, they didn't get a full education. So therefore, it's a lot of times it's really hard for them to understand the King James Version of the Bible, especially if they don't have a relationship with the Lord, they're reading the Bible already. So what I like to do when I do my lessons, I do it out of the New Living Translation, because it just puts it in plain English. And that way it helps me go a little faster through the story, because I'm already long-winded, but at the same time it keeps me from having to explain every single line. Because I found myself doing it the other day. I found myself explaining every single line, and it just made it take a lot longer. So I apologize if I offend anybody by doing it out of the New Living Translation. But again, I believe in the King James Version, but I do it out the New Living Translation just so make sure everybody gets what they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and say a prayer and get started, because the lesson is long enough, and I don't want to hold it up with all this babbling on. So, dear Lord, Heavenly Father, I come to you today thanking you once again, first of all, for this day, giving us another day on this earth, giving me another opportunity to share your word with others, Lord, and hopefully help them build a relationship with you. I just thank you so much for putting your spirit in my heart, Lord, calling me away from the things that I was doing, the life I was living, and giving me a purpose for my life, the purpose to serve your purpose, your will to others that's not even looking for you, or normally don't want to have anything to do with you, Lord. And I pray that as we go through this lesson and we look at this life of Samson, we see today that, yeah, we by nature, we have this evil side of us that always want, this flesh that we fight, that always want to do the things that we want to do, which oftentimes takes us out of your will. But I pray that you help us see through this lesson, do what you did with Samson, that no matter how bad we feel we are, no matter how far away from you we get, we can still be used by you once we make the decision that we want to be used by you, Lord. So I pray that you just watch over us today, send your spirit down upon me, and use me to bring out this lesson in the life of Samson. But I also ask you to send your spirit down upon the ones that's listening out there or watching out there today, Lord. Let your spirit work in their hearts and help them see if they have a Delilah in their life that we're going to talk about today. Help them see that Delilah and get away from the Delilah before we get to the final result of sin. So I ask you to just watch over us as we go through this lesson today. Continue to use me and guide me in the right direction. Continue to help this ministry grow. But more importantly, Lord, I just pray that your word go out and touch the heart of those that need to hear this word today. We love you and thank you for everything. And say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All righty. So I want to talk to y'all about the results of sin. Now, we all have something, and this is what this lesson is going to focus around. We all have something in our lives that we do that keeps getting us in trouble. For this guy Samson here today, and this is something I dealt with in the past personally, and a lot of guys I know deal with this, is women. Is Samson, his downfall is going to be women. He's going to have a bad time with women, and he's going to be a point where you're like, man, won't this dude just leave women alone? But he's going to keep messing with them until it end up being his downfall. But we all have those things in our life. Some of us is drugs. Some of us is alcohol. Some of us is women. Some of us is money. There's always something in our lives, something in this world that is going to pull us away from God. That's going to keep us doing things that we're not supposed to be doing and eventually lead us on the path that we don't need to go down. So that's why I'm doing this lesson today to help you see the results of that thing that you have in your life and why it's important for you to get away from that thing before it's too late. So that's why it's called the results of sin. So first, this first chapter, and I'm gonna let you know. Like I said, I'm warning you guys. It's a bit of a long lesson, and I pray that you can be able to make it all the way through. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. But the first chapter, in chapter 13 in Judges, is just deals with the birth of Samson, and it's more introduction than anything. But it does establish some things that helps us understand the rest of the story. So that's why I want to go through it to show you how important it is. So we're gonna go ahead, and I'm just gonna jump into it. So in chapter, like I said, I'm reading the New Living Translation. I apologize to anybody that's got the King James Version. I do believe in the King James, but I think this will help us move the story along a little bit quicker so I don't have to explain everything. So the very first line of chapter 13 tells us a lot about what's going on in Israel right now. And Judges chapter 13, verse 1 says, "Again, the Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord handed them over to the Philistines, who kept them in subjection for 40 years. Now, that little statement there is just a small little statement, but it says a lot. So just a little background on what's going on in the book of Judges. Of course, we know when the Israelites started out, they never really had a king. And up until this point, they still don't have a king. What they had initially, Abraham was the father, and then, of course, Jacob and Isaac came along. And then, of course, they went down to Egypt toward the end of the life of Jacob, and then they was stayed in Egypt for over 400 years as slaves after Joseph had died off and a new Pharaoh came up. So then, after they finally called out to the Lord sent Moses to rescue them. So Moses went into the land of Egypt and brought them out of the land of Egypt, and he was kind of like their leader or their priest, so to speak, for all the years that he lived. And as long as Moses lived, they did what they supposed to do for God. He kept them in line. He taught them the word of God. He gave them all the commands that God wanted them to follow and things of that nature. So he was their preacher, basically. So then, when Moses died, he made Joshua, which was his servant, he made him the leader of Israel. And again, as long as Joshua was alive, the Israelites did everything they were supposed to do. Now then, after Joshua died, Joshua told them, he said, y'all going to get to a point where y'all going to stop believing in the Lord. Y'all going to stop doing the thing that the Lord wants y'all to do. He said, I want y'all to remember this. And, and I'm not going to go through the whole story, but he told them they need to make a decision whether they're going to serve the Lord or serve themselves before he died. So then, when Joshua died, of course, a little while later, the Israelites started doing the stuff they weren't supposed to do. They started intermingling with the people around them. They started worshiping their gods. They started marrying into the clans around them, which they wasn't supposed to do. And they also started, worshiping idols. So after a while, whenever they did this to a son, and his hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. He will rescue Israel from the Philistines. So again, we see something here that is not necessarily going into the lesson like what the lesson is based on. It's not necessarily what the lesson is based on, but there's an important issue here that I, again, this is not what this lesson is based on, but I think this right here, this verse really deals with abortion. Anybody out there that has question about abortion, or is abortion right, is right to have an abortion and things of that nature, I think this kind of answers that. Because you notice this lady hasn't even gotten pregnant yet. She hasn't even conceived with a son yet, but yet God already has a plan for their child life. He already said, look, you're going to have a son. You must not drink wine or any alcoholic drink. You become pregnant and give birth to a son. His hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth, and he will rescue Israel from the Philistines. So even before this child was even born, he already has a purpose for his life, and that goes for any child that is born. So again, this is not a sermon on abortion, but this does point out why you should, if you're really serving the Lord, you should be against abortion, because it's wrong. God has a plan. You might not have planned to being pregnant. You might not have had a plan of having a child at that time, but God had a plan. And if you get rid of that child, trying to take your life or do God's will into your own hands, then you never know what the world may be missing. We look at AIDS and all these diseases that's going on that seem that there can't be a cure found for, and we don't realize that maybe the person that was supposed to come up with the cure has been killed already because he got an abortion. Because the Lord had a plan for that child to do that thing, but because somebody decided they were going to take their life into their own hands and not put it in God's hand, they got rid of that child. So, and we see that, again, this is not a lesson on that, but we see that here, that even though this child has not been born, yet, even though this he was, this family didn't even plan on having a child because they couldn't have a child, the Lord had a plan the whole time, and he had a plan for that child's life. So even before the child was conceived, he had a plan. But also, you notice something else, it said he's dedicated to God as a Nazarite. Now, I want to explain to y'all a little bit what a Nazarite is so you understand this, because this is going to help us once we get into the story, and you're going to see why I say Samson was hard-headed. Now, the Israelites, over in Exodus 19, chapters 5 through 6, the Israelites said, it says in the word, now therefore, if ye will obey my voice, I'm sorry, I can't read my own right. It said, therefore, if you would obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye should be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So, in other words, and if you go through the Old Testament, you will see that the Lord gave the Israelites a whole lot of commandments. Of course, everybody knows the 10 Commandments, but in reality, if you read through all the laws that the Lord gave to the Israelites, they actually had 613 commandments that the Lord gave to the Israelites, rules that they had to follow to stay in His will, so to speak. Now, a Nazarite was something so that's already enough rules and regulation to follow and to be holy. A Nazarite is somebody that even went above and beyond that 613 commandments they already had. They had an extra 3. And those 3 was, 1, they couldn't drink alcohol at all, and they couldn't even eat anything or have anything to do with anything that's to do with grapes. Anything made out of grapes they couldn't do. So they couldn't eat raisins, they couldn't eat grapes, they couldn't drink wine, they couldn't drink grape juice, and matter of fact, they weren't even supposed to touch it. If they had raisin nuts back then, they wouldn't have been able to eat raisin nuts, and I love raisin nuts, they're pretty good. So they couldn't eat anything that had anything to do with grapes, so they couldn't drink wine. That's why he says right here, she couldn't drink wine or have any other alcoholic beverage or eat any forbidden food. And of course, that forbidden food was grapes. They couldn't do that. They couldn't cut their hair, and they also couldn't be around dead bodies at all, even if it was one of their parents. If Samson's parent was to die, he couldn't go to the funeral because he was dedicated to God as a Nazarite. Now, of course, that was normally reserved only for the priests. The priests couldn't defile themselves because of their service to God. But the Nazarite, they also couldn't defile themselves as well. So I want to point out that he was, when it says a Nazarite, I want to explain kind of what that is because it'll help y'all understand the story a little bit better why I say Samson was so hard-headed. So this angel shows up and tells this lady who's never had a kid, so it's a big deal. She couldn't have children, she was barren. So it was a big deal that this angel showed up and said she's about to have a kid. So then she ran to her husband and tell her husband. And she ran to her husband, verse 6, she said, the woman ran and told her husband, a man of God appeared to me. He was like one of God's angels, terrifying to look at. I didn't ask where he was from, and he didn't tell me his name. So I posed a question there to y'all. How did she know? Hey, Felicia, glad you joined us this evening. Glad you're here. So I want to plan the question, give y'all this question. How did she know that he was a man of God if she didn't even ask where he was from or say his name? How does she know he's a man of God? And it goes back again to that. If y'all saw my first sermon that I put on here, I did on Facebook Live. It was called "What Does Your Walk Say?" Does your walk say this? So what that tells me about this man. Because, it wasn't obviously, when we think of angels, we think of these big, like we always see the statues and the pictures, and you got angels in these white robes, and they all tall, and they got wings. When angels appeared back then in the day, they just appeared as regular people. But they did have something about them that let them know they was men, people of God. And then also our spirit connects with the angels. Sometimes you just know when you're in the presence of somebody that's truly spiritual. And that's what I believe it was. This guy had such a walk. He had such a strong servitude to the Lord that with her just being in his presence, she knew he was a man of God. She can feel it. She can feel the Spirit of God on him. So that's how she knew. So again, I pose that question to you all out there. If you're trying to be a servant of the Lord, what is your walk really saying? Can somebody look at you and say that's a man of God or that's a woman of God, that's a person of God? If you're being faithful, they should be able to. And obviously, this servant of God was so faithful that even though the woman didn't know who he was or where he was from, she knew he was from God because of the way he presented himself, the way he carried himself, the way he spoke. She just knew that he was from God. So then, when she said that, she ran to the husband and she told him, she said, but he told me, you become pregnant. She told her husband basically what happened. So she went to her husband and said, this man appeared to me. I'm pretty sure he was a man of God. And said, he told me, you become pregnant and give birth to a son. You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink or eat any forbidden food, for your son will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite from the moment of his birth until the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord. He said, Lord, please let the man of God come back to us again and give us more instruction about this son who is to be born. So he's already received the instruction that he was supposed to have. He's already received it. So why is he praying to the Lord to tell the Lord to come back again? See, we do the same thing. We all do the same thing. Every one of us, single one of us, know when we're doing something we're not supposed to be doing. Every single one of us know the things that we're supposed to do, and we know what we're not supposed to do because the Bible tells us of it. We already have God's instruction, and there's not anything that you can deal with in this life that the Bible doesn't cover. But the problem is, a lot of time when we get into the Bible, it tells us not to do stuff that we like to do. It tells us to stay away from those things that we like to be around all the time. And that's why we don't read the Bible. But then, we'll call it, oh, God, show me what I'm doing wrong. No, what do I need to do? Well, just get in your Bible. God will tell you. That's why he left the Bible for us, to instruct us on the way we're supposed to be living and the thing we're supposed to be doing. So Manoah is doing the same thing. God has already given him instruction. Don't drink wine or eat any forbidden food. Don't cut his hair. He's going to be a Nazarite. He already knows what he's supposed to do. But yet Manoah went to him again. And the reason why, there's another reason. One is because he was hoping God was going to give him a different answer. Because guess what? If his wife can't drink wine or be around wine, then guess what? He can't either. And see, so he's like, hold on, Lord, you sure about this? Like, you sure we got to give up the wine and the grapes and all that? Because because if the wife can't do it, then he can't do it as well. Because they're together, they're married. So one, he was hoping that the Lord would give him a little leeway on the drinking. But two, you got to understand, I hope this don't get you feminists all upset. But back in the day, women had no credibility. Nothing they said meant anything to men. And I mean, that's just if you read history, and it still goes on in the Middle East today. So again, I ain't trying to upset you feminists, but it's just truth. I got to bring you the whole truth. Back then, nothing women said had any validity to it. If a man wasn't around to witness it, or if a man to corroborate a story, then it meant nothing. So for this woman to come to her husband and say, hey, a man of God told me, because it's going to her like, well, why would he appear to my wife and not appear to me? But we're going to see by the time we get to the end of this chapter why he appears to the wife and instead of the husband. So the husband calls out to the Lord again, but it shows you that the husband has some kind of faith because it said the Lord answered his prayer. And the verse 9, it says, God answered his prayer, and the angel of God appeared once again to his wife as she was sitting in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. So she quickly ran and told her husband, the man who appeared to me the other day is here again. So you notice he can't, even though Manoah is the one who appeared, Manoah was the one that prayed to the Lord, he went to the woman again. Why? We're going to see toward the end, I don't want to spoil it, but we're going to see toward the end why he went to the woman. But there's a particular reason why he went to the wife and not the husband. But this time she ran back and got her husband like, hey, the man that showed up, he's here again. So when she went and got her husband, Manoah ran back with his wife and asked, are you the man who talked to my wife the other day? Yes, he replied, I am. So Manoah asked him, when your words come true, what kind of rules should govern the boy's life and work? And again, he already know what he's supposed to do. He already know what's supposed to be done. The Lord has already told him. He told him, don't cut his hair, don't drink wine, and don't be around any kind of grape products, period. And of course, he can't be around dead bodies. And plus, that combined with all the other 613 commandments that the Israelites had. So Manoah already knew what he was supposed to do. But again, he was trying to find another way out. Because, again, he had to give up liquor as well. If his wife couldn't drink liquor, he had to give up the liquor. So that's what he was hoping that the Lord was going to give him some slack on this whole liquor thing. That's what I believe, because he didn't want to give it up. And you can tell by the angel's reply that he was a little upset that Manoah was asking him again. Because in 13 it says, the angel of the Lord replied, be sure your wife follows the instruction I've already given her. I've already told you what to do. Why are you asking me again what needs to be done? And I'm pretty sure the Lord say the same thing with us when we call out the Lord, what should I do? Where should I go? You know where to go. Read your Bible. Your Bible will tell you what you need to do and where you need to go if you would just read it. If you just follow the instructions in there, if you just follow my covenant, what did he tell the Israelites? If you would just follow my covenant, if we would just do the things that we know God wants us to do, we wouldn't have these problems. But often the thing that God wants us to do does not coincide with the things we want to do. And that's the problem. That's why we have such a hard time following God's will for our life, because it often conflicts with what we want to do. We want to party. We want to drink. We want to smoke. We want to go and hook up with all these girls and do all these things. But that's not what God wants us to do. So instead of reading the Bible that's going to tell us not to do these things, we should try to live life on our own. And then when problems come up, oh, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. When you know what you're doing wrong. And that's what the angel said here. The angel replied, he said, you be sure your wife followed the instruction I already gave her. She must not, and he noticed he didn't change anything. He said she must not eat grapes or raisins, drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, or eat any forbidden food. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please stay here until we can prepare a young goat for you to eat. And he said, I will stay. The angel of the Lord replied, but I will not eat anything. However, you may prepare a burnt offering as a sacrifice to the Lord. Manoah didn't realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Now, again, this is another little piece of information I like to give out when I read through this, especially when I share with the guys in jail. Several times we see angels show up in the Old Testament. Sometimes they are just angels, which is in this situation here, it's just an angel that shows up. But sometimes it's actually God himself. Jesus shows up. Like we saw in the lesson, again, we go back to the lesson we did of Daniel. Jesus himself showed up in that story twice. So, and the way you can always tell whether it's Jesus or just an angel, because they all say angels, but the way you can always tell if it's Jesus or it's angel, if it's Jesus, Jesus always ate with the people when he showed up. Like when Abraham, when he was heading down to Sodom and Gomorrah, Jesus showed up with two angels with him. And the two angels went on to check out the city, but Jesus stayed and had dinner with Abraham, and they talked a little bit. But of course, that's another story. But if you ever see an angel show up and they offer some food and it doesn't eat, then you know that it was just an angel, because angels didn't eat, but God did. So in this story, you see the angel refused, so it was just the angel of the Lord. It wasn't Jesus himself that showed up. So there's just a little bit of tidbit for you there, so you read that and make it read through your Bible and make it a little bit more interesting to you when you see the Lord show up. But in this case, it wasn't Jesus. It was just an angel showed up. So Manoah tried to offer him some food, but he wouldn't eat because he was an angel, and angels don't eat. So then it says, Manoah asked the angel of the angel of the Lord, what is your name? For when all this comes true, we want to honor you. And he said, why do you ask my name? The angel of the Lord replied, you wouldn't understand it if I told you. In other words, an angel, he was there. An angel is just a servant. No, they don't want no glory, because he knew what Manoah was going to most likely do, start worshiping and sacrificing to him if he knew his name. And that's not something, he didn't want to take God's glory. So he said, I'm not telling you my name, because I already know what you're going to do if I tell you my name. You're going to start sacrificing and worshiping me. And I'm not here to get honor and glory for myself. I'm here to get honor and glory for God. So that's why he didn't tell him his name, because he didn't want to become an idol or somebody else that's going to get in the way of him serving the Lord. So he told him that's why he didn't tell his name. So then it says, then Manoah took a young goat. In verse 19 it said, then Manoah took a young goat and a grain offering and offered it on a rock as a sacrifice to the Lord. And as Manoah and his wife watched, the Lord did an amazing thing. As the flames from the altar shot up toward the sky, the angel of the Lord ascended in the fire. And when Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell with their faces to the ground. So you got to imagine you sitting there hanging out with this dude and you're doing a sacrifice and you start up the barbecue grill, because that's basically what the altar was, a big barbecue grill where they burnt all the meat, the sacrifices to the Lord. And as the flames shot up, this man all of a sudden shoots up in the flame. So right at that moment, they knew without a doubt. Now at first, Manoah didn't understand, and I'm going to show y'all, we about to get to why the angel appears to the wife twice. But Manoah didn't realize who it was. He didn't understand that he was in the presence of God, one of God's angels. But the wife did. And that's why the angel appeared to her twice, because she had more faith than her husband did. But after he did this sacrifice and he saw how the man shot up in the flame, then he realized that he was in the presence of God. And that's why they both fell on their face. Because at first there may have been some doubt there. But when they saw that happen, they knew for sure, like, oh man, we're dealing with a man of God. So then it says, the angel did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. And Manoah finally realized it was the angel of the Lord. And he said to his wife, we will die, for we have seen God. So you see that he had some faith, And we know he had some faith because the Lord answered his prayer, but he didn't have full faith. And that's why the angel didn't appear to him and appeared to his wife each time, because he didn't have faith. Because it took the angel doing this mighty miracle before he realized, like, oh man, we was in the man of God. Where if the wife, she knew from the beginning. The first time she told him she saw him, she said, a man of God here. And you know what I'm saying? He was definitely from God. So we see that he had a lack of faith, and it took God doing this miracle before he finally realized that, oh, I was in the presence of a man of God. Same thing happens for us. We know we have time where God is calling us. He's showing us certain ways we need to go, certain direction we need to go, but we require him to do some mighty special thing before we finally give in, like, oh man, I guess God was calling me, and let me go do this thing that he showed me I need to be doing. All of us do that. So you have to be careful there. You need to be able to realize when God is talking to you. And the only way you're going to be able to realize when God is talking to you is if you have a close relationship with him. If you don't have a close relationship with him, you're not going to realize when he's talking to you if you're not spending time with him every day. So it shows you that Manoah at this time in the beginning didn't have a close relationship with God because he didn't realize, but his wife did, because check out what she says, how she responds. Now Manoah's like, oh man, we're going to die because we just saw God and he's going to kill us. So in verse 23, his wife said, but his wife said, if the Lord was going to kill us, he wouldn't have accepted our burnt offering to us. He wouldn't have accepted our burnt offering, and he wouldn't appear to us and told us this wonderful thing and done these miracles. In other words, she's saying, well, be quiet. You know, if God was going to kill us, why would he show up, accept our offering, and tell us he's going to do this wonderful thing? See, you know what? His wife was living on the promises of God. And we got to do that. When you read the Bible, God gives us several promises. Now, one thing he doesn't promise, he never promises that we're not going to have problems. He never promises we're not going to have tribulation in this world. He never promised that we're not going to go through things. But he does promise us when we go through these things that he's going to help us out. You know, he promised us when plagues come on this land, if we turn our hearts and our minds back to him, that he would get rid of this plague. You see what I'm saying? So his wife was standing on the promises of God. She believed with her whole heart. And that's why the angel appeared to her twice and didn't appear to the husband. So you got to understand that it was because of her faith. She had more faith out of the relationship. She was the most faithful one. And that's why the angel appeared to her twice and not the husband. Now, the husband's faith did come around. The husband did come around, and we're going to see he started living by his faith. But in the beginning, it was because of the wife's faith that the angel appeared to them, and the reason why they was blessed with this situation where they was going to have this child that was going to serve the Lord. So understand that, you know, live on the promises of God. Again, God never promises that our life is going to be hunky-dory. We're not going to have problems. It says when you go through trials and tribulations. The Bible never says if. It never say maybe you're going to go. It says when you go to trials and tribulation, I will be there with you in the midst. So if you can stand on that promise, you can know no matter what pops up in your life, God's going to be there to help you through it if you still have your faith in him. So that's just a little lesson on faith. So just to finish up, and like I said, this whole first chapter was introduction, and now we're about to get into the meat. So just to finish up this introduction chapter, it says in verse 24, when a son was born, they named him Samson. And the Lord blessed him as he grew up. And in Mahanadan, which is located between the towns of Zorah and Eshtaol, the Spirit of the Lord began to take hold of him. Now, right there, that's one of the situations where I want to read to you what it says in the King James Version about that spirit. It says the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times. That's how the King James Version words it. It moves him at times. And what that means is up until the time of Pentecost with Peter, after Jesus came, the Spirit would come upon people at times. It would use them to do a mighty thing, but then it would leave again. You never really see the Spirit rest on somebody and stay there till after Pentecost. So because Jesus hasn't come yet and made the sacrifice so we can be filled with the Spirit. So that's why it says it began to move him in the King James Version at times. So the way this version put it, it said it began to take hold of him and make it seem like he got the Spirit and he was filled with the Spirit all the time. But that actually wasn't the case. And we're going to see that because that statement is going to pop up several times as we go through the story. And we're going to see that. It said the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times. So there was times when the Spirit was working on him, and there was time when he was doing things of his own cognizance. So we're going to see that because the things when he was doing of his own, it got him in trouble. And then the Spirit came on him and got him out of trouble. So now, that was our introduction. So now we about to get into the meat. And again, I hope y'all will stick with me through all this because it's a very interesting story. And I like to put out a lot of extra points that we often miss when we read the story of Samson. Because Samson was pretty hard-headed. And we're going to see this in the very first paragraph. So in chapter 14, the first verse says, one day when Samson was in Timnah, he noticed a certain Philistine woman. When he returned home, he told his father and mother, I want to marry a young Philistine woman I saw in Timnah. So that going to take us to our verse. Now, if y'all want to take notes, I got 13 what I call results of sin. 13 things that had happened as a result of sin in your life. There's 13 things that will come into your life because of sin. And this right here is our very first one, lust of the eyes. So what happened? He was in the land of Timnah, which is a Philistine land, and he saw this pretty girl. She was fine, you know what I'm saying? She might have had a big booty or something. I don't know. It don't give a description, but it was something that made him attract to her, and he saw her. You know, men these days, you know, we're physical, and with the way women dress, you know, you can't even go to Walmart without seeing, you know, somebody walking half naked, especially when this summer coming out. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is when your heart is not in the right place, you get the lust of your eyes. That's the first result of the first result of sin, lust of the eyes. You see something, then you want it. Oh man, I know I ain't supposed to have that, but man, I sure would like to. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened right here in this situation. He saw this woman he's not supposed to have, but he wanted her. Now, again, you got to understand, as a Nazarite, no, the Israelites, they already have 613 commandments they need to follow, and the Nazarite has an extra 3. So even though all the Israelites should have been holy, a Nazarite is supposed to be extra holy. So if it's a rule for the Israelites, then it means double for a Nazarite, which Samson was. So there was a rule among the Israelites where they wasn't supposed to marry outside of Israelites. Israelites was only supposed to marry Israelites. And that's why you see a lot of time in the Bible, a lot of people is like, oh, there's a lot of incest in the Bible and all that. The reason why is because they was not supposed to marry outside of their tribe. And they're all related. So it's a lot of times the Israelites, they marry their cousins, they marry their aunts and uncles. That happens a lot. And, you know, and like saying to us, we're like, oh, that's disgusting. But that's how it was back then, because they were not supposed to marry outside of the Israelites. So for him to be asking to marry this Philistine woman, he's already violating. I mean, the very first line on this man's life is he's already violating, because he want to marry somebody he's not supposed to marry. He want to, and I got to keep it real with y'all, he want a piece of booty that he ain't supposed to have. That's what it boils down to. And all this is going to start a downfall in this man's life. All this because he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, looking at someone he wasn't supposed to look at. Then because of that, he's going to have troubles throughout his entire life because of this, because he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, wanting something he wasn't supposed to have. He was giving in to the lust of his eyes. Because what happened? He said he saw the woman, and then he went home and said, I want her. So the lust of the eyes. So that takes us to our first result of sin, the lust of the eye. He saw this woman, like I said, she was beautiful. She was probably pretty thick in the terms today. And he like, man, I want her. I got to have a piece of that. And he started pursuing her. So when he went to his father and mother, he told them, went to them and said, hey, I want this woman. I seen this Philistine woman I want to marry. His father and mother objected strenuously. In other words, they knew this was a bad thing. Like, son, you're not supposed to do this. They was strenuous. They were like, no, heck no, this is not happening in our house. But he said, and they even told us, that, isn't there one woman in our tribe or among all the Israelites you could marry? Why must you go to this pagan to the pagan Philistines to find a wife? Because they knew it was completely against God's laws for them. They were not supposed to marry outside the Israelites. And again, with him being a Nazarite, it meant double for him. Now, right there again, a situation where I'm going to read the King James, what the King James Version should say, because the King James Version reveals something, a little something else. This ain't the first time that he's had problem with trying to date women that he's not supposed to date. Because check this out, what it says in the King James Version. It said, then his mother and father said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren and among all my people that thou goest to take as a wife of the uncircumcised Philistine? Is there never? Can you never just find you a nice Israelite girl, a nice wholesome church girl, like we would say, a nice wholesome church girl? So that tells you this is not the first time Samson has had an issue with women, and this is not the first time his parents have had to get on him about being with the wrong woman, having the wrong woman in his life. This is an ongoing thing. You know what I'm saying? This is the ongoing thing, and that's what he said. That's what his father's talking about. So it shows you again, Samson is pretty hard-headed, because this is just the very first peek we see into his life as him as a young adult, and he's already doing stuff that he's not supposed to do, and apparently he's been doing it for a while. So then it says, but Samson told his father, get her for me. She is the one I want. See, he was more concerned with getting what he wanted instead of getting what he needed. What he needed was a nice, wholesome Israelite wife that obeyed God, that served God, that was doing the things of God already. But what he wanted was this hoochie from the Philistines. That's basically what was going on. That what was happening. He said, get her for me. She's the one I want. So that takes us to our second result of sin, disobedience. See, this is something, and y'all know I got 6 kids, 7 kids basically. And, and I talk to them all the time, and I tell them, look, man, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I've dealt with drugs. I've dealt with women. I've dealt with that. If y'all would just listen to me and just do what I say, y'all can stay out of trouble. You know what I'm saying? Y'all would just stay out of trouble. What's up, Chris, man? Good to see you, brother. Congratulations on the baby. Thank you for that. It's an encouragement. But again, if y'all just listen to me and do what we were supposed to say, it's trouble. And that's with parents, period. And I'm not just the only one. I know y'all do the same thing. I know sometimes y'all like, how can, I sit here and tell y'all what not to do and what to do, and you still go do other things and get in trouble, then want to run to me to get you out of trouble. All you got to do is listen. You know what I'm saying? But when you're sinning, you're disobedient. And that's what's coming right now. That's what's happening right now. He have disobedience. His parents are telling him, boy, stay away from that girl. That girl is not going to be good for you. You need to stay away from her. You need to get you a good, wholesome Israelite girl, and you'll be fine. No, this is the one I want. I want this Philistine girl. Did you not see her booty, Dad? You know what I'm saying? Did you not see them double D's in there? It was something about her that made him want her made him want to be with her instead of being with the one that he was really supposed to be with. And that's what's the trouble start. See, that lust of the eyes, it comes along, next thing you know comes along is disobedience. So when you start sinning, sin is like you gotta, we've all seen the cartoons where you got a snowball at the top of the hill, and as it's rolling down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The next thing you know is this huge thing. That's what sin is. You know what I'm saying? It starts with a little lie. It might start with your eyes being in the wrong place, on the wrong girl it's not supposed to be on, and then it just keeps snowballing. And things just get worse and worse and worse. And that's what's going to happen here with Samson. So now we already see he has the lust of the eyes already. He already have the disobedience to his parents. And then we're going to see the next one. It said, but Samson told his father, get her from me because she's the one I want. Now what you see a lack of wisdom and discernment. So y'all remember, and I'm like I said, the reason why I did this story after I did the story of Daniel, because I wanted to see y'all to see this comparison. Last week we saw how Daniel had the grace of God, he had all this wisdom, he had all this discernment on his life because he was faithful to God. And now we're seeing Samson, and he's the opposite, because this right here, he said, his dad is telling him, you don't need this girl, she's going to be trouble. But Samson said, get her for me, she's the one I want. So now we see he have a lack of wisdom and discernment. So what Daniel had wisdom and discernment because he was faithful to God, Samson don't have wisdom and discernment because he's not faithful to God. He's more worried about doing the things of his flesh, doing what he want to do instead of doing what he's supposed to do. And that's what's going to get him in trouble. So the first one we got the lust of eyes. The first result of sin is the lust of the eyes. Second, we see the disobedience. And third, we see a lack of wisdom and discernment. He's not smart enough. He's not wise enough to listen to his dad because dad is telling him, son, if you listen to me, you'll have a good life. No, dad, this is the girl I want. Get her from me. He's being hard-headed. So Samson is hard-headed. And then, like I said, this is just the very first paragraph. We ain't even really got into the meat of his life yet. This is just the first paragraph. So then it says, his father and mother didn't realize the Lord was at work in this, creating an opportunity to disrupt the Philistines who ruled over Israel at that time. Now, a lot of people want to take them and be like, well, see, if God is doing it, how can it really be a bad thing? God is setting him up. No, God is not setting him up. Let me let y'all understand that right now. God is not setting him up. If you read through the Bible, there's a section in there, I can't remember exactly where it's at because I was preparing for this lesson, but he talks about God's will. There's actually 3 different aspects to God's will that a man can follow. You can either be in God's acceptable will, his good will, or his perfect will. And see, what you want to do, if you're really trying to serve the Lord God, you will want to be in God's perfect will for your life. You'll want to be exactly where God wants you to be at, doing the things God wants you to do. But, God also has an acceptable will and a good will. See, an acceptable will is like, he didn't really do what he's supposed to, but, I still was able to use him. And honestly, that's what Samson's life is going to be. It's going to be in God's acceptable will. And even though he's only in God's acceptable will, he still did enough in the acceptable will to be mentioned in the heroes of faith later on in Hebrew. But he's going to live by God's acceptable will. But there's also a good will. A good will is, okay, he's pretty much doing what he's supposed to do. He goes to church like he's supposed to, spread my word there now and again. So, that's pretty good. But what you want to do, if you really want God's grace in your life, you really want to, yes, Jessica Hard, I'm talking about you. If you really want to live God's will for your life, you want to be in God's perfect will for your life. That is our goal, to live God's perfect will. And if you can live God's perfect will for your life, man, the drama, the problem, the chaos that we've often find ourselves entangled in will be gone, because we'll be doing what God wants us to do. Not saying we're not going to have problems. I don't want y'all to think that you're going to still have problems, because the devil going to always try to throw things in there to get you away from the will of God. But if you just stay faithful to God, a lot of the excess drama that you don't need your life won't be there, because you're doing what God wants you to do. And that's what Samson's father is trying to tell him, but Samson is being disobedient. So he's not listening to his dad. And it says, again, the Lord, they didn't realize the Lord was at work in this, creating an opportunity to disrupt the Philistines who ruled over Israel. So in other words, it's not that God is making him do this to fill out his will, but God, whatever decision you make, God can still use that in a good way. So Samson decided that he's going to chase this Philistine girl that he's not supposed to chase. So God like, all right, well, I use that. He's going to chase the Philistine. So I use this as an opportunity to create a situation where he'll be at enemies with the Philistine. So no matter what decisions you make, I got a song I made. If y'all get on my YouTube page, y'all can hear the song I made. Matter of fact, the song that I wrote that's changed my life and made me give my life to God 16 years ago is called God's Will. And it talks about how everything happens for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what you're doing, good or bad, you're still serving God's will. It's just that you're losing God's grace in your life by doing the bad things. You know what I'm saying? So I understand. I want y'all to understand that and how important that is. So it says, so that he finally, I guess the parents finally give in, because now in verse 5 we see where the parents is actually on the way to go and meet the girl so they can get her for Samson. So it says, as Samson and his parents were going down, verse 5, chapter 14, verse 5, it says, as Samson and his parents were going down to Timnah, a young lion attacked Samson near the vineyards of Timnah. Now, what is that saying? What does it say? It said where he got attacked at, near the vineyards of Timnah. What is a vineyard? A vineyard is what? A place that they grow grapes. So what is he doing? He's somewhere once again where he's not supposed to be. And since he's somewhere he's not supposed to be, what happened? He got attacked by a lion. See, that's what gets us in trouble. That's what we don't realize. When you start having all these problems going on in your life, when you doing things, you know what I'm saying? How many times you been at your side piece house and your baby mama ride up and bam, there's drama. Why? Because you're somewhere you weren't supposed to be. You got caught. You see what I'm saying? That's what we got to understand. When you go out of God's will and you go to the place you're not supposed to be going and you're doing the things you're not supposed to be doing, what you're doing, you're giving the devil an opportunity to attack you. You know what I'm saying? What is it? Because you think, I find it funny, or it's not a coincidence that he got attacked by a lion. Because you read over in the book, I think it's First Peter, it's one of the Peters, I think it's First Peter or Second Peter, but he said what he says about the devil. He said the devil walks about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. In other words, the devil is always prowling around, looking for you in that moment of weakness so he can get you. And see, what was Samson at? The Lord said, as a Nazarite, he wasn't even supposed to be around grace, but yet, guess where he was at? In the vineyard. He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. And since he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, guess what happened? The devil was able to attack him. He got attacked by the devil. So again, we see Samson living in his flesh, doing things he's not supposed to do, but the Lord is with him. So it says, even though he was in a vineyard and a young lion attacked him, but it said at that moment, the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of him. So we see that statement come true again, where the Spirit of the Lord took control of him. So even though the fleshly decisions he was making by being in that vineyard where he wasn't supposed to be got him in trouble, it was God that got him out of trouble. You see how it works? So again, it shows you, because this guy still has potential. He's hard-headed, this crap, but he still has potential to do something for God, and therefore the God was protecting him. So again, because of his fleshly decisions, he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. A lion attacked him, so he was out there by a vineyard. A lion attacked him, but at the same time, God came and took control. It said at that moment, the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of him, and he ripped the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands, and he did it as easily as if it was a young goat. But he didn't tell his father or his mother about it. Why did he tell his father and mother about it? Because again, and remember I told y'all the 3 Nazarite laws at the beginning, so they help y'all understand the story a little better and to show y'all why I say Samson was hard-headed. One of the Nazarite laws was they could not be around a dead body. So if he just ripped this lion's mouth apart with his bare hands, guess what? He had a dead carcass in his hand. So guess what? Now he's defiled as a Nazarite. So He's already trying to hook up with some girl he's not supposed to be hooking up with, which is against the Nazarite, which is against the laws of Israel, therefore against the Nazarite law, and he just touched a dead body. So before we even halfway through the first chapter, we can already see how hard-headed this dude is, but yet the Lord is still protecting him. Because the Lord could have easily just let the lion eat him up. Man, he wasn't supposed to be there, let the lion eat him up, but he still had potential. See, God sees in our hearts. And this we got to understand. You might look at some bum on the street or some alcoholic or some meth head and be like, man, it's a darn shame what they doing. And you might judge that person. It's a darn shame what they doing, with their life. But God will see that person and be like, man, if I can get a hold of them, they can do a mighty work in my name. So see, God never discards us. We're never too far or too terrible or too far away from God to do something for God. And God knows that because he sees our heart. But you got to get to a point where you make the decision that you're going to put your faith and trust in God and start living for him. So that's what the thing with Samson. Even though Samson is hard-headed, and I'm keep on pointing out how hard-headed he is, even though he was hard-headed, the Lord still used him because he still had the potential to do a lot for the tribe of Israel. And that's what he was born for. So it says, the lion attacked him, and he took the lion and he ripped the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands. Because again, his flesh got him in trouble, but the Lord got him out of trouble. And notice it said that he, when he took the carcass, when he did as it was a goat, but he didn't tell his father or his mother about it. Why not? Because he knew they would have been pissed that he touched a dead body because, again, it violated him as a Nazarite. So, again, you see another result of sin, lying. You know what I'm saying? He didn't tell his mom and dad. Now, he didn't go and say, he didn't tell them, but about not telling them that he just went through that situation, it was lying because it was deceptive. So he was still deception is a part of when you have those results of sin in your life, you have to lie about them. You have to keep covering them up. And that's what he did. He covered them up. He didn't tell his mom and father about it because he knew they would be pissed at him for touching that dead body. So you got to understand that. So then it says, when Samson arrived in Timnah, he talked with the woman, and he was very pleased with her. Again, someone he wasn't supposed to be a piece, and I'm going to keep saying this, and I'm not trying to be lewd to anybody, but it's just what it is. A piece of booty he wasn't supposed to have. He saw it like, yeah, I want that. Yeah, Dad, don't get her for me. So then it says later on in verse 8, later when he returned to Timnah for the wedding, he turned off the path to look at the carcass of the lion, and he found that a swarm of bees had made some honey in the carcass. He scooped some of the honey into his hands and ate it along the way. He also gave some of it to his father and his mother, and they ate it. But he didn't tell them he had taken the honey from the carcass of a lion. So what do you see him doing once again? Defiling himself. He's not supposed to touch a dead body, but yet not only did he touch a dead body, he says, what was the Nazarite law we read in the first chapter that we went through? He's not supposed to touch a dead body, and he's not supposed to eat anything that's unclean. So honey out of a dead lion is definitely unclean. That's about the most unclean you can get, and yet what did he do? He took some and ate some of it, and not only did he eat some, he gave some to his parent. See, that's what happened with sin. Now, when you're sinning, the people around you are going to start sinning as well. You're going to convince them to get into sin as well. Hey, GG, good to see you. Hope you're doing good over there down in Nashville. So, again, we see where he sinned and then he gave it to his parents, so now they sinning. So not only is he defiled, they're also defiled. And again, the reason why he didn't tell them, because he didn't want to, if they knew where that honey came from that he just gave them, they would have been pissed. They're like, son, you know better than this. Why would you bring this to us? Because now we're defiled as well as you being defiled. You see what I'm saying? So again, that's what sin does. And that's what I want y'all to notice as we go through this, because now we're about to really get into the thick of the sin that he completes. Sin affects the people around you more than it affects you. And a lot of times, that's why we don't stop when it comes to getting in trouble. Because there's always somebody there to bail us out. There's always somebody there to come in and rescue us out of the trouble that we get ourselves in. You know what I'm saying? Sin affects the people around you more than it affects yourself. And you see right here, well, not only did he defile himself, because he gave his parents this honey that was out of his carcass, now they're defiled. Now they're not supposed to be not going to be able to go to the temple and make the sacrifice to the Lord, but they're not aware of it. So that's even worse, because they're defiled and they're going to end up going into the house of the Lord defiled and not even realize it because he didn't tell them. See, you're seeing the results of sin, and it's going to keep piling up. So now it says they took the honey out the carcass and he ate it and he gave it to his parents and didn't tell her where it was from. So now they're in the land where they're going to have a wedding at. It said, as his father was making final arrangements for the marriage, Samson threw a party at Timnah, as was the custom of the day. So what does that mean? How many parties have y'all been to and there wasn't no drinking there? I mean, how many parties y'all been to and there wasn't no drugs there or something going on that wasn't supposed to be happening? You know what I'm saying? He threw a big party. So guess what that means? He was drinking. So again, you see, he's breaking one of the Nazarite laws. He's doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing. He's drinking. He's not doing the things that he should be doing. So he's already defiled himself by touching the dead body. He was in the vineyard when he got taught by the devil. So that shows you that he was around grapes that he wasn't supposed to. And now he's drinking. And because he's drinking, he's doing all the stuff he's not supposed to. It's going to lead to even more sin. Because watch what happened. It says they threw a party and 30 young men from the town were invited to be his companions. So that's something, y'all, that statement there is important. That's something you got to be careful for, because we're going to see the results of what happened because of this. 30 young men from the town were invited to be his companions. In other words, he had fake people around him. You got to watch having fake people around. You got to watch. If you're truly trying to serve the Lord and do what God wants you to do, you got to watch who's around you, because having the wrong people around you will get you in trouble. You want people around you that when they see you doing something you're not supposed to do, they're going to say, hey, man, don't do that. You know, you want to have people around you that when you're going down the wrong path, they're not going to encourage you to go down that path. They're going to try to take you in a different direction. You got to be careful of that. And this is what he had around him. He said 30 young men from the town were invited to be his companions. So they weren't really his friends. They were some people that he hired to be around him. You see what I'm saying? So when you got fake people around you, people that don't really care for you or care about you, guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen when it happens? You're going to get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So he's drinking and he's surrounded by these fake friends. So he's in the perfect situation for some trouble to happen. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So he's at this party with these 30 fake friends. And it says, Samson said to them, let me tell you a riddle. If you solve my riddle during these 7 days of the celebration, I will give you 30 plain linen robes and 30 fancy robes. But if you can't solve it, then you must give me 30 linen robes and 30 fancy robes. So that takes us to our fourth result of sin: pride. See, he's drunk. You know what I'm saying? He didn't took the lion, ripped the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands. So you got to imagine he's feeling pretty good about himself right now. So now he's gotten so prideful that he gives these guys this challenge, because he's thinking to himself, he's so smart, he's so wide. There's no way they're gonna be able to figure this challenge out. You know what I'm saying? And he tells them, if you can solve it, then I will give you 30 linen robes, which he didn't even have. So that shows you how prideful he was, because he didn't even have the money to buy these 30 linen robes. He didn't even have the finances to buy these 30 linen robes. But yet he making a bet saying that if y'all can't solve this riddle, I give you 30 fancy robes to each man. So it was 30 fancy robes to each man. He would give 30. So that's a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? That he didn't have. But he was so prideful. He was so sure of himself. He was so confident in his ability that he made this bet, saying that if y'all figure it out, I give you these 30 fancy robes. But if you can't figure it out, then you got to give me 30 fancy robes. So what his thinking was I'm about to get paid. I'm about to get paid off these fools. You know what I'm saying? Because I know there's no way they're going to be able to figure out this riddle I got for them. So, of course, they agreed, because that's a good option. And, and it was 30 of them. So they're like, surely between one of us, we'll be able to figure this out. So they took the bet. So it says, all right, they agreed. Let's hear your riddle. So he said, from the one who eats came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. 3 days later, they were still trying to figure it out. On the fourth day, they said to Samson's wife, get the answer to the riddle from your husband, or we will burn down your father's house with you in it. Did you invite us to this party just to make us poor? So what happened? They couldn't figure it out. So who did they go to? They went to his woman. You know what I'm saying? They went to his woman. They went to his woman. And see, this is what's going to happen when you don't have somebody with you that's down for you. When you got a good woman that got your back, she would never do what this woman is about to do. If she got your back, she would rather have died, her and her father died, than betray her husband if she was really for him. And this is what his dad was trying to warn him of when he went down to the Philistine. He was telling him, son, get you a good Israelite woman, because an Israelite woman would have been there for you. She would have never betrayed you. But this is some Philistine that he just met. He didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? Again, piece of booty he wasn't supposed to be with in the first place. And because of that, it's going to cause some trouble. So they go to his wife and be like, hey, if you don't get this answer to this riddle, then we're going to burn you and your father's house down. So what happened? Samson's wife came to him in chapter 14, verse 16. He said, so Samson's wife came to him in tears and said, you don't love me. This is how I imagine her talking to her. You don't love me. You hate me. You have given my people a riddle, but you haven't even told me the answer. What's she doing? She putting them feminine wiles on them. Because, that's one thing we can handle as men, man, we can handle anything. We can go through any kind of pain. But, man, I cannot handle a woman crying or a person crying personally for me. Because I'm just not an emotional dude, man. So when people come to me crying, it's always awkward for me. It's just like, try to give them a little hug or something. I don't know. But that's what she did. She threw them feminine, oh, you don't love me. You told everybody else the answer, but you ain't telling it to me. And she's going to make him feel like he's being a jerk when in reality, she's trying to get the answer out of him so she can go get to these other dudes because she's not loyal to him. Because that's not who he's supposed to be with in the first place. So that's what happens when you with somebody that you're not supposed to be with, you lose that loyalty of a woman that was down for you. Somebody that will break their back for you and do anything for you to make sure that you succeed. Now, this man has an opportunity to come up. You know what I'm saying? He got 30 dudes that's going to have to give him fancy roles. He would have came up big time. And he didn't even have to keep all the clothes. He could have sold them, make a gang of loot. So he got an opportunity to come up, and if his wife was with him, she'd have been down with him. But she's not with him because that's not who he's supposed to be with in the first place. He's not supposed to be with these Philistines, and that's what's gonna get him in trouble. So she hit him with the tears, the blinking eye. Like I ain't gonna lie, y'all know me, y'all know my daughters, and if y'all know me and my daughter, y'all know they're spoiled rotten. Cause they hit me with the sad face, they hit me with the puppy dog eye. I can't say no to that, And the same thing happened for Samson. He was a strong man, but he was weak when it came to women. Cause watch what happened. So he told her. And the next verse said, I haven't even given an answer to my father or my mother, he replied. So why should I tell you? In other words, why should I tell you? I haven't even told my mom and dad. I haven't told you. You know what I'm saying? Basically, I just met you because he really don't know this chick. So he's like, basically, I just met you. Why would I tell you? So what she do? He said, so she cried whenever she was with him and kept it up for the rest of the celebration. At last, on the 7th day, he told her the answer because of her persistent nagging. He couldn't take it no more. All this whining and crying. Could you marry? Because you think about it, they're just getting married. And back then the custom was you get married and you have like this 7-day celebration. So if you just got married, that's supposed to be a happy time. Y'all supposed to be partying and kicking it, doing all kind of things. But she just whining and crying the whole time. That'll get on any man's nerve. So finally she cried and whined so bad that he just gave it to her like, man, forget, fine. Here you go. Here go the answer. And it says, what happened? Then she gave the answer to the young men. So you see what happens when, first of all, you got fake friends around you and we got fake people in your life. They will let you down every time. That's why it's so important to remember not to put your faith and trust in men. And it says men, but that means women too. If you got the right woman with you, man, I'm telling you, if you got the right woman behind you, man, she will lift you, elevate you. You can be a peasant and she will elevate you to a king. But if you got the wrong woman behind you, you could be a king and she'll take you all the way down to a peasant, if not worse. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful when you out here in these streets, man, and you out here in this world and you mess with all these women and you doing this and that and that. You got to be careful who you messing with because getting with the wrong one can take you down, but getting with the right one can lift you up. But in Samson's case, he got with the wrong one, and this is going to be his problem throughout the rest of his life. This is going to be a common theme throughout his life, getting with the wrong woman. So that's what happened here in this situation. He got with the wrong woman, and because of her nagging, she was able to pry the answer out of it, get the answer out of him. And what she do to show you that she wasn't loyal to him, soon as she got the answer, she went straight and told her boys. Oh man, this is the answer right here. So then it says, so before the sun set, on the 7th day, the men of town came to Samson with their answer. What is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? So the riddle he gave them was about the honey that was in the lion that he had killed. No, but it ain't nowhere in the world, anybody in the world would have been able to figure that out because that had never happened before. So that's why he knew he had the advantage. That's why he was so prideful. That's why he knew he had the advantage that they weren't going to be able to figure it out. But because he was with the wrong girl, he spent his time with the wrong woman, guess what happened? She figured it out and gave the answer to her boys. And therefore, he ended up losing the bet. So then, and Samson even knew it, because guess what he said? He said, Samson replied, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have found the answer to my riddle. In other words, had you not been talking to my girl, you wouldn't have got the answer to that. So he knew exactly the point of origin of the betrayer. betrayal. He knew exactly that who messed him over, but yet, and we're going to see as we go through his life, he still never learned his lesson to stay away from the wrong women. It's going to be a constant thing that's going to eventually take him down. But right here, he knows exactly where the answer came from, and he said, if you hadn't hooked over my girl, you would have never knew the riddle. You know what I'm saying? So then it says, here go that statement again, then the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of him. So again, you see where his flesh got him in trouble, but God is about to get him out of trouble. But it says, then the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of him, and he went down to the town of Ashkelon and killed 30 men, took their belongings, and gave their clothing to the men who had answered his riddle. So what happened now? Now he's a murderer and a robber. You see what I'm saying? All over a piece of booty he wasn't supposed to have. This all started when he saw that girl, that Philistine girl, that he wasn't supposed to be with, and he wanted her instead of being with the Israelites like he's supposed to. All that's one little simple little thing. It don't seem like a big issue. Oh man, it's just a piece of booty. It don't seem like big, but you don't see what comes with that. You don't see the drama and the chaos that comes along with that, and that's why sin is so dangerous. Because in the beginning it seems all hunky dory, nobody's being harmed by it, but you never see the end results, and that's why I'm going through this, the results of sin. Because yet we still haven't seen the end result, but that right there, that shows us the fifth result of sin. And the fifth result of sin is a violence and negativity in the lives of those around you. Because you got to understand, it says he got pissed off, went down to this town in Ashkelon and killed 30 men. These dudes didn't have nothing to do with what he was doing. They was in a whole nother town. So because this man let his mouth, my grandma used to say, don't let your mouth overload your butt. But she didn't use those words, but that's what she said. So since he let his mouth overload his butt, he had to go kill 30 other dudes and take their possession. So now he's a murderer and a robber. And not only that, in order for him to take their stuff, to kill him, what he had to do? Touch a dead body. So once again, he's defiling himself. He's doing everything that he's not supposed to do. This man was dedicated to the Lord from birth. No, from the moment he breathed his first breath, he was dedicated to the Lord. But yet we see him in a foreign land with a foreign woman, drinking which he's not supposed to be doing, and he partying, which he's not supposed to be doing, and he just killed 30 dudes and took their clothes and robbed them. You see what I'm saying? This is what happens when you get into sin. You know, it sounds good at first, but it always gets progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. That's why it's always better to just do what you know you're supposed to be doing than doing the things that you want to do. So we see now, and what I want to do, start right here, I want to start up a body count. I want to start up this dude's body count because of this man, again, somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be, trying to get some booty he wasn't supposed to get, 30 guys just lost their lives and all their possessions because of this one man's making this bad decision. So that's what you got to understand, people. When you sin, the results of your sin, it often affects everybody around you before it affects you. Think of all the guys in prison and in jail. You know what I'm saying? Now they baby mamas all alone, got to figure out how to provide for themselves and these kids because this man doing something he wasn't supposed to do. It affects the people in your world. It gives you instability in your world. That's what sin does. Sin is like a credit card. I've seen this on one of those church posters before, but it's like a credit card. You know, when you first get that credit card, you know, you go and charge the mess out of it. Oh man, I want this new TV. I want this new this. I want these new clothes. And it's fun at first because you know you got a month before you have to make the first payment. And even when you have to make the first payment, it's only $15, $20. It's not something bad. But then what happens when you lose your job or your money running low? But yet you still got this bill that you got to pay. You see what I'm saying? It bites you in your butt in the end. It was fun at first, but it bites you in your butt in the end. Sin is the same way. See, it was fun at first, but now because of this one man somewhere he's not supposed to be, hooking up with some woman he's not supposed to hook up with, 30 men just lost their lives and all their possessions because of this one man. That's the results of sin. You see violence and negativity in the lives of all the people around you. And I want y'all to pay attention as we go through this. We're going to see everything that this dude did affected the people in this world more than it affected him. And that's why he never stopped, because he never got affected by it. You see what I'm saying? So he went down, he killed these 30 men and robbed them. And again, he defiled himself in doing that because he took their clothes, so he had to touch their dead bodies to take the clothes off. And again, a Nazarite is not supposed to be touching clothes. So already it's 3 main Nazarite laws. You're not supposed to defile yourself by being around dead body, which we see he's already broken. First chapter of his life, he's already broken that. He's not supposed to be around grapes or eat grapes or anything defiled. He's already done that. So the only thing he got left is not cutting his hair, and that's why the Lord is still with him, because his hair is still there. So It says he took their clothing and he killed them. The 30 men took their belongings and gave their clothing to the men who had answered his riddle. But Samson was furious about what had happened, and he went back home to live with his father and mother. So his wife was given in marriage to the man who had been Samson's best man at the wedding. So see what what happened when you got fake people? The dude that was your best man, and of course the best man is supposed to be your boy. That's supposed to be the one, your life friend, the one that's been down with you from the beginning. But yet the guy that was his best man married his girl. You see what happened? When you got fake people around you, that would happen. I got certain friends, man, of course I got my wife, so I can't hook up with nobody anyway. But I got certain friends that people that they've been with, if I wasn't with my wife and I was looking for somebody, I never could get with those girls that they've been with before, because I knew at some point they had a close relationship and they really loved, because that's how dedicated I am and loyal to my friends. I could never be with anybody that one of my real friends have been with before. Never could do it. But again, what happened when you have fake people around you? The guy that was his best man, in other words, the guy that was supposed to be his best friend, ended up marrying his wife because he got mad and he went back home and then married her. So the best man I'll take it for myself. See, that's what happened. You have fake people in your life, and that's going to cause even more problems. So that's 14. So now, chapter 13, like I told y'all, that was mostly introduction. That was saying how Samson came about, how God gave a prediction. 14 was him as a young man. That was just I would say somewhere in this area, he between the age of 18, 24, somewhere just a young man, just like we are, all those young men are doing dumb stuff, making our mistakes in life, so to speak. And he's just really ignorant. And we're going to see as we get more into it, he's just a very foolish person in first place. But yet the Lord still used him. So he gets mad. He don't marry the girl. The girl is given to his best man to marry, and then he goes back home. So then later on, chapter 15 starts off. It says later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat as a present to his wife. He intended to go sleep with her, but her father wouldn't let him in. He said, "I really thought you hated her," her father explained, "so I gave her in marriage to your best man. But look, her sister is more beautiful than she is. Marry her instead." So this chick has already proved to him that she wasn't for him, but yet he was still trying to go hook up with her. He still wanted to marry her when she's already proved herself to be unworthy. And again, we do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? There's things in our life that will prove to us that it's people that will prove to us that we don't need to be around that person or need to be messing with that person, but yet we still go and try to be with that person and be around that person, knowing that that person is going to get us in trouble. And that's what happened. That's what's happening here. She's already proved to him that she wasn't for him. The fact that she stole the answer from him and gave it to her friends let him know that she's not loyal. Why would you want to be with a person like that? But see, when you're sinning, you can't see that. He's so blinded by, number 3 was a lack of wisdom and discernment. He's so blinded by the lust of his eyes. He's so blinded by the lust of his eyes and the things that he wants. He's not even seeing what's right there. Obviously, it's obvious to us because we're going over the story, but he can't see what's obvious to his face that, man, you need to leave this chick alone. She's not good for you. Leave her alone. Again, we do the same thing. We get so blinded by the world and what we want and the lust of our eyes that we can't even see when it's obvious in our face. There are certain people that we don't need to be messing with. So yet we'll go back and mess with them time and time again, they'll screw us over that quick. Because that's the results of sin. It blinds our eyes to what should be obvious. It keeps us away from the wisdom of God of things that should be obvious to us. And that's going to keep happening to us until we completely give our heart to God and learn to go to God and live the way we're supposed to live and do the things that we're supposed to be doing. But Samson didn't do that. So, the girls already proved, he was mad enough to where he didn't stay at the wedding, he left. So it's obvious that he should leave alone, but he couldn't. He went right back to her. So what happened? When he went back, the dad wouldn't let him in because the dad had already given her in marriage to his best man. So when that happened, Samson got really pissed. And so in verse 3 it says, Samson said, "This time I cannot be blamed for everything I'm going to do to you Philistines." Then he went out and caught 300 foxes. He tied their tails together in pairs, and he fastened a torch to each pair of tails. Then he lit the torches and let the foxes run through the fields of the Philistines. He burned all their grain to the ground, including the grain still in piles and all that had been in a bundle. He also destroyed their grapevines and their olive trees. So now what you see happening, you see the sixth result of sin, financial collapse. See what I'm saying? Financial collapse. That's be a sixth result of sin. Because what did he just do? Now, you got to understand something. And the reason why this is significant, what you got to understand, back then, farming was the way they paid their bills. Farming was the way they fed their families. You know what I'm saying? Some of this grain that they grew these grapevines, these olive vines, some of they grew so they can sell to make money, and some of they grew so they can feed their family. So what is Samson? When Samson was destroyed, he pretty much went and destroyed this whole nation's income. Because it says, look, it said he burned all the grain that was on to the ground, including the grain still in piles and all that had been bundled. He also destroyed their grapevines and their olive trees. So what did he do? He just went and burnt up all their money. That's basically what he just did. So that's the sixth result of sin, a financial collapse. Because of this one man, or somewhere he's not supposed to be, trying to get some booty he's not supposed to get, he just ruined these folks' whole economy. Because you got to understand, with him doing that, to kind of put in numbers, this is millions of dollars worth of property damage that he just caused. Millions of dollars worth of property damage that he just caused, but again, because he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, trying to get some booty he's not supposed to get. Those are the results of sin. And you notice everything he's doing is not affecting him. It's affecting the people around him. He's pretty much destroying this country because he made a bad decision of trying to hook up some girl he's not supposed to be with. But everybody else is paying the cost. And that's what happened with your sin. So I want y'all to think about that. When you out there, especially if there's any young kids that's watching this right now, when you go out there and you get ready to make them bad decisions, go to that party and do that drinking that you know you're not supposed to do, smoking that weed you're not supposed to smoke, popping them pills you're not supposed to pop, when you get ready to do those things, I want you to really take a second and think about how is it going to affect the people in your world, because that's who's going to be affected by it. It's not you're not going to get affected right then. Yeah, you might enjoy the pleasures of it, but it's the people in your world that's going to end up suffering from when that happens. It's the people in your world that suffers from your bad decisions. And we're seeing that right here. Samson is making the bad decisions, but everybody around him is suffering for it. So why quit? It hadn't affected him yet, so why would he stop? And see, that's why we keep doing those same things over and over that we know we're not supposed to be doing. That's why we keep doing those same things over and over that keeps getting us in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because if I go to jail, my mama just going to come bail me out. Daddy just going to come bail me out. You know what I'm saying? They're going to give me a lawyer, I'll be fine. So they're not worrying about you. You're not worrying about yourself. You're not worrying about the people in your world. You're just worrying about yourself. And the people around you is going to suffer when you're out there in the world doing the things you're not supposed to be doing. And that's one of the major results of sin. So we see here, again, number 6, where a financial collapse. Because of this man, somewhere he's not supposed to be doing the things he's not supposed to be doing, he just caused millions of dollars of property damage. Now there's going to be thousands of families that can't feed their kids. There's going to be thousands of families that's going to have to sell their cars and sell their farmland and sell them, maybe even sell themselves to slavery to provide for themselves, because this man just burned down all the grain and the olive trees and the things that they would normally use to make their income with. One man, again, and why did all this start? Because he saw some girl he wasn't supposed to be with and he started pursuing her when he knew he wasn't supposed to. See the results of sin. So, of course, when that happened, the Philistines came and they were like, who did this? The Philistines demanded. Samson was the reply, because his father-in-law from Timnah gave Samson's wife to be married to his best man. So the Philistines went and got the woman and her father and burned them to death. So what happened? Lost his loved ones. So that's number 7. That's number 7 on my list. The loss of love and loved ones. That's what happened when you're out here sinning. Again, it affects the people in your world. So because of this man did what he did, now his wife is dead and her father's dead. And whoever, now it said the wife and the father, but 9 times out of 10, whoever else was in the house at the time, everybody had to die. So then the lady had some younger siblings. They're dead now, because when people back then, when they killed your family, they killed everybody. Nobody was exempt. Everybody had to die. So they just went and burned down the house and killed everybody in the house because of this one man making bad decisions. So are y'all starting to see why it's important to do what you're supposed to do? This is why I want people to understand. When you read through the Bible, of course, there's a lot of commands. There's a lot of don't do this. There's also a lot of do that. The reason why is because God is trying to keep you from this stuff. You can't see the trap that woman is laying for you when you're messing with her. I'm from Memphis, and one thing that's known in Memphis is people robbing people. I can't tell you how many times dudes been set up to rob because they was hooked up with some girl, and after the club, and they went to the girl like, oh, let's go back to your place, and then she got back to the place and dudes run into his house because the girl was setting them up. You see what I'm saying? You got to be weird, but you don't see those things when you're living the way you're living and doing what you want to do. Those are the results of sin. It blinds you to the danger that is right in front of your face that you should be able to see. But as you notice, so far, nothing is happening to Samson. So now the body count is up to 32. No, because we know at least 32. We know the 30 men that Samson killed, so because he robbed them to give his the clothes to those guys that he made the bet with. And now this woman, her father, and like I said, it was most likely more than that. But this woman, her father died because of his bad decision. So right now, 32 people, 32 different people have lost their lives because of one man somewhere he's not supposed to be trying to get some booty he's not supposed to be getting. You see that? And I know that sounds lewd, like why would the people saying that's what it is? That's what it all boils. That's what all started this man going out there chasing some booty. That's what all started all of this. So now so far 32 people have lost their lives because of this one man's bad decisions. Those are the results of sin, people. I want you to understand how it affects. That's why God say don't do this, do that. Because God knows what's at the end of that road. He knows what's going to happen if you mess with that girl. He knows what's going to happen if you rob that bank. He knows what's going to happen if you kill that person. He can see the end and you can't. So that's why he say don't do those things. And that's why he say you need to do those things, praying and reading your Bible. Because he also know the end result of that is his grace and glory on your life. So that's why you got to understand God is not telling us not to do all these things because he don't want us to be down here all bored and not have fun. No, he's telling us not to do these certain things because he know if we avoid doing those things, we can have a good full life. We can have happiness in our life. We can have a life without drama and chaos. If you got drama and chaos in your life right now, it's because you put it in your life because of the decision that you made. And we see that that's exactly what's going on here with Samson. He got all this drama and chaos in his life because of the decision that he's making. It's not God doing this to him. He's making the decisions. You know what I'm saying? So again, what you say? Thank you, Rez, for interrupting with that unimportant comment. I need some water anyway. But again, we see that it's because of his decision that he has these problems. We see it's because of his decision that he's going through what he's going through. It's not God is picking on him. It's not God. It's not because of God is put him through some fire or something. He's just out there doing stupid stuff, and he's having to pay for the consequences of those actions. So now, because the Philistines killed his mom, his wife, and his wife's father, now he got to retaliate. So again, sin just gonna beget more sin. So then he says in verse 7, he said, "Because you did this, Samson vowed, I will take my vengeance on you, and I won't stop until I'm satisfied." So he attacked the Philistines with great fury and killed many of them. Then he went to live in a cave in the rock of Etham. So what happened? Because they retaliated and they killed his wife and her father, he retaliated and he killed many of them. Now, right there, because I said I want to keep a body count, it doesn't give an actual number of how many people he killed at that point, but it says many. So we just going to say 100. Matter of fact, we just say 50. We just say 50. And you know what I'm saying? That way it ain't too much, but I don't want to take away his credit, but I don't want to give him too much credit neither. But it don't give us a number, but it did say many. So let's just say he killed 50 men right there. So now, up until this point, because you got one man somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, chasing some booty he wasn't supposed to get, 82 people have lost their lives because of this man's bad decisions. But you notice what it said after he killed them. What happened? He had to go live in a rock, in a cave at the rock of Etham. So guess what? He can't even go home no more. So again, that takes us to our next point. Our next result of sin. Our next result of sin is a life of turmoil and instability. No stability. When you out there doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, and you hang with people you're not supposed to be hanging with, you're doing these drugs, you're doing this alcohol, your life is always going to be unstable. You're always going to be running into problems. You're always going to have chaos and drama. You're always going to be you're going to be kicked out, going from house to house, sleeping on other people's couches because you're not doing what you're not supposed to be doing. That's what happened to Samson. Now he can't even go home because he went out there and he killed all these Philistines. So now they're looking for him. So now he can't even go home and rest in peace. See, that's what happened when sin come to your house. When sin come into your life, it takes the peace of your life out. It takes away the peace in your world. You know what I'm saying? It brings the drama and the chaos and the turmoil into your world. And that's my number 7 result of sin. You get a loss. Number 7 was a loss of love and loved ones. Number 8 was a life of turmoil and no stability. That's what happened when you live a sinful life. You have no stability. All you have in your life is drama and chaos. And that's going to continue. So now, first you see Samson retaliated. Samson retaliated, and it could be 1,000. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if you got a little bit ahead because he's gonna kill 1,000 later on. So you might have got a little bit ahead. Right there, they didn't actually give a number as far as how many died. They just said many. And even in the King James version, it did the same thing. So you might win a little bit ahead because he's about to kill another 1,000. So that's why I'm keeping track of this body count. So it says the Philistines since the Philistines killed his father-in-law and his wife. Then he retaliated by killing Philistines. So now the Philistines are going to retaliate again. So it said then the Philistines retaliated by setting up camp in Judah and raiding the town of Lehi. Then the men of Judah asked the Philistines, "Why have you attacked us?" So now what happened? What happens? What happened? You see again, we see the loss of loved ones and the loss of love. Because it said they set up and raided. Now, what always happened to a raid? They ain't just went and started knocking on people's doors like, hey, it's Samson here. What they do? They kicking in people's doors. They dragging people out. They torturing people, trying to figure out where he was. Because, again, this is not times like now where you have laws and rules and regulations. They can only do certain things. This was back then. They did anything they felt like. And plus, Philistines was under subjection to them. So they was basically their slaves. So they could do anything they wanted to do. So basically what they did, they went to his town where he was from and started beating up people, started torturing people. Its number of people died, in that raid. It's women that was taken and raped. You know what I'm saying? He just caused all this turmoil in his own country. It brought into his own country and to his own people. And that's what you see. That's what happened. So again, you see a loss of love and a loss of loved ones. You see the instability that this man has brought into his country all over a piece of booty. I mean, again, I keep saying that in the South Nats, but that's what this all started. He wanted a piece of booty that he wasn't supposed to have. That's what started this whole thing. He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, chasing somebody he wasn't supposed to chase. And that's what caused all this. So now, because of him, now his family is getting beat up. Now his brothers and his cousins are getting beat up. Now his brothers and his cousins are being tortured. Now his nieces and nephews, his little nieces are somewhere being raped because these soldiers went in and they raided this town. And again, I'm not trying to be lewd or anything. I'm trying to help y'all paint a picture of what's really going on here, what these people are really suffering through. Because if you watch any of the old time movies, whenever a town was raided, that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? It was always looting, it was always plundering, it was always rape. You know what I'm saying? It was always torture. You know what I'm saying? That's what's happening because this one man somewhere doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing. Those are the results of sin. So again, you see though, Samson is still not affected. He's still not affected. Yet he has yet to have anything happen to him. So why would he stop? It's happening to is his family being destroyed? Yes. Is his cousins and everybody being beat up? Yes. But nothing has happened to him yet. So why would he stop? Because he has yet to see. He doesn't have enough wisdom to see the results of the sin. He doesn't see what's going to happen in the end. So he's going to keep on going. And again, that's what happened to us. That's why we keep on doing the same things over and over that we keep getting in trouble for, because we don't see what's going to happen in the end if we don't stop doing those things. We keep on going, and that's what a lot of times we keep on going till we end up in jail or dead somewhere. That's what happened. You know what I'm saying? So we see this, and we see he goes and they raid his family. So now it says the Philistines replied when they went and raided the town of Lehi, which is where he stayed, and the men of Judah asked them, like, why are you attacking us? And he said the Philistines replied, we've come to capture Samson. We have come to pay him back for what he did to us. So he tell him because of Samson is right there. Clearly because of him. What the Judeans was asking, why are you attacking us? Why are you killing us? Why are you beating us? Why are you torturing us? Because of Samson. You see what I'm saying? Because of Samson's sin, these people are being tortured. They're being attacked. They're being killed. The women are being raped because this one man somewhere, he's not supposed to be doing things he's not supposed to be doing. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I want y'all to understand. And I'm going to keep repeating to get in there. That's the result of sin. It's going to affect the people in your world and the people around you more than it's going to affect you. They're going to suffer more than you're going to suffer because of the bad decision that you're making. So that's why you should always be careful of your decisions when you make them. Think about how it's going to affect your family. When I was young, I lived in North Memphis and I had the opportunity. I always had guys, hey man, let's go do this, let's go do that. And I always say no. You know what I'm saying? And people didn't look at me as a good two-shoe. They're like, all right, they never pressured me into doing anything. But the reason why I was able to say no, because before I did anything, my grandma is the one that raised me. I love her to death. She's the one that got me in the church. She's the reason why I'm preaching today. And she always was straight up with me, and I knew she would give me her last. So before I went out to do anything, I always thought, how's my grandmother going to feel if she found out I did this thing? You know what I'm saying? What is it going to do to her? How's she going to feel if I found out, hey, Maddie, how you doing there? But that's what always kept me from doing with the things I wasn't supposed to be doing. You know, I always thought before I did those things, how's this going to affect my grandmother? How's she going to feel? Now that got my own family, before I go out there and do things I'm not supposed to, if I do something I know, you know what I'm saying, that can make me lose my job or something like that, before I do that thing, I always think, how's it going to affect my family? How's it going to affect my wife? You know what I'm saying? Is my wife going to cut my throat when I get home because she saw me out there flirting with some other chick? Yeah. You know, I have to think about stuff like that because she will kill me in my sleep if she found out, you know. But, you know, on the serious note, start thinking about how it's going to affect others. How's it going to affect the people in your world? You know what I'm saying? If I get out there and I start doing all this stuff I'm not supposed to be doing and I get locked up for doing some stuff, how's it going to affect my ministry? All these people that I'm supposed to be leading in a close relationship with God, how's it going to affect them? You see what I'm saying? You got to start thinking about more than yourself with the decisions you make and think about how it's going to affect the others, not just the satisfaction you're going to get out of it. That's what you got to do. And if you start doing that, it'll keep you from doing those things you're not supposed to be doing. Me and my wife this week, this Thursday coming up, we're going to be celebrating our 16th anniversary. You know, and that's a blessing because I never was around anybody that was married. My grandmother wasn't married. My dad and mama never did get married. So for me to be able to have this, it's a blessing. But it was always because I always kept her in mind when I made my decisions. That's why we was able to have this long relationship and be faithful to each other, because I think about how it's going to affect her and my family if I go out there and do these things and I get caught cheating or whatnot. How's it going to affect my family? But see, Samson not thinking about that. He's only thinking about what he wanted to do. And now, so far, we got 82 people that have lost their life because of this one man somewhere he's not supposed to be doing things that he wasn't supposed to do. So now what happened? His family turns on him. So if you see verse 11, so it said they asked the Philistines, why are you coming to attack us? And they told them because of Samson. So then in verse 11 it says, so 3,000 men of Judah, which was his own family got together. It says, so 3,000 men of Judah went down to get Samson at the cave in the rock of Etham. And they said to Samson, don't you realize the Philistines rule over us? What are you doing to us? But Samson replied, I only paid them back for what they did to me. So the men of Judah told him, we have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. So what happened? His own family turned on because they got tired of his stuff. You know, we all got something about it in our family, and everybody know that person in your family where you just get tired of messing with them. Like, man, I can't mess with Earl. Every time, you know, Earl come to my house, he's stealing stuff. He always getting us in trouble. Got the police coming to my house. I'm done messing with Earl. And eventually you just turn your back on Earl. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to give Earl that tough love so he can understand what he's doing is hurting you, not only hurting himself, it's hurting you as well. That's what happened here to Samson. So again, that takes us back to our seventh result of sin, a loss of love and a loss of loved ones. His family's rejected him now. His own family went to go tie him up and turn him over to the police, basically. His own family snitched on him because he's been doing nothing and causing them trouble and drama because of the decision that he's making. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand that. And that's what happened. That's one of the results of sin. You'll start losing. You'll get to a point, if you keep on doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, you still keep on out there getting in trouble, you'll get to the point where you won't have nowhere to turn. You won't have nobody that'll take you in and let you sleep on their couch. You won't have nobody that's going to take up for you when you get in trouble, come bail you out of jail, because you've done so much. Though that's the result. You start losing that love because of your ignorance, and people finally see, like, look, this person ain't going to do no good. I can't keep messing with them. I'm just going to turn my back on them. And that's what his family did. They turned their back on him. So they told him, so they went and told him, look, 3,000 people from his family, they went and they told him, like, we come to tie you up. You know what I'm saying? And he said, I told him, we have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. So Samson told him, he just went along. He said, all right, Samson said, but promise you won't kill me yourselves. And they said, we will just tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. They replied, we won't kill you. So they tied him up with 2 brand new ropes and led him away from the rock. So the reason why he asked that, because he knew what he was going to do. And he wasn't ready to turn himself in. And he knew that if he had to fight his own people, that he was going to end up killing his own people, and that's not what he wanted to do. So that's why he made them promise. He said, promise me that y'all won't to harm me yourselves. And they said, okay, we're not going to do it. So he was like, all right, and he turned himself in. But he knew what he was going to do, and he knew that God was going to work through him, because check this out. So once again, we see a situation where his flesh has got him in trouble, but we also see what God come get him out of it. So it says, as Samson arrived at Lehi, the Philistines came out shouting in triumph. So they felt they had won. But check this out, this next line. But the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of Samson. So once again, we see, even though this dude is hard-headed, he still has potential. God still sees something in him because God has come to get him out of trouble. And again, this is not just something he doing for Samson. He do it for all of us. How many times have we done something and got in trouble for it, or we were getting ready to do something and God came and showed up and rescued us out of it. You know what I'm saying? He does that for all of us. But if you keep on, eventually God will take his hand off your life. But right now, he still, you know what I'm saying, he still sees something in Samson. So that's why it said the Spirit of the Lord powerfully took control of Samson. So again, even though he's out there, he's being hard-headed, he's already broke two of the Nazarite laws and defiled himself, but yet the Lord is still there with him. And it said the Spirit of the Lord took control of Samson, and it said he snapped the ropes on his arms as if they were just burnt strands of flax. In other words, like burnt thread. He said he snapped the ropes like it was just burnt thread, and he said, and they fell from his wrists. Then he picked up a donkey's jawbone that was lying on the ground, and he killed 1,000 Philistines with it. Whoa. Y'all gotta understand, that is insane. Because these ain't just like they were just regular men, like some dudes just hanging around, 1,000 dudes hanging around, and he just started killing them. These were soldiers. These was dudes that had been trained to be soldiers. They had on armor, they had swords, they had spears. You know, and these were soldiers. These weren't just no regular dudes. And he picked up a jawbone. These guys had on armor. You know what I'm saying? They had on, they had spears, they had swords, and all this dude had was a jawbone from a donkey that had died. Which again, that's something dead. So he defiled himself. So he picked up something that would make him defile and used it to kill 1,000 men with it. That's God there. Only God could be with somebody to do something like that. He picked up a jawbone of a donkey and killed 1,000 men with it. You see what I'm saying? So now, again, let's go back to our body count. All this started because Samson saw this young Philistine girl that he wasn't supposed to be with, and he wanted her. And now, because of him and his decisions, we got 1,082 people that have lost their lives because of this one man somewhere he's not supposed to be at, doing things he's not supposed to be doing. That's the results of sin, people. That's what I want y'all to see. So you're seeing that Samson, bad stuff is happening, but it's not happening to Samson yet. It's still, we've been through 3 chapters and we have yet to see where anything bad happened to Samson. So that's why we keep going. That's why we keep on doing these things that comes to get us in trouble, because we keep on doing it. And mom and dad, they crying because I'm doing this stuff I'm not supposed to be doing. Yeah, my family don't mess with me no more, but that's all right. I'm still living. I'm still able to do what I want, so I'm just going to keep on doing it. You see what I'm saying? We're not seeing how it's affecting everybody. We're not seeing the end game. And right now, Samson still haven't seen the end game yet, so he's not stopping. And plus, when he's comes getting in trouble and God is putting him out of it, why would he stop? So we see this mighty miracle here. Again, this man is surrounded by 1,000 soldiers, and he takes the jawbone of a donkey, and kills 1,000 people with it. So far in this story, we got this man, because he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, wanted a piece of booty he wasn't supposed to have. We got 1,082 people. It's probably more than that, but like I said, just for the sake of the argument, we got 1,000. We know at least 1,082 people have lost their lives because of this man doing things that he's not supposed to be doing, being places he's not supposed to be. That's the results of sin. See how it's affected everybody around him, but it's not affecting him yet. That's the results of sin. So then after that happened, Samson said he gave praise to God because he realized that God did this. It says, and Samson said, in verse 16, it said, and Samson said, with the jawbone of a donkey, I've made heaps on heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I've killed 1,000 men. When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was named Jawbone Hill. Now Samson was very thirsty, and he cried out to the Lord, you have accomplished this great victory by the strength of your servant. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of these pagan people? So we see he still had his faith in God. You know what I'm saying? He gave glory to God for what happened. He didn't say, oh man, I'm so strong, I'm so this, I'm so that I was able to do this. He said, Lord, you did this. You know what I'm saying? He gave grace to God. So we see why God is still using him. You see, because he still has potential. He knows better. Now he's doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing, but we know that he knows better. The fact that he called out to God shows that he has some kind of relationship with God. He's just not being faithful. See, he's not like Daniel, what we talked about in the last 2 lessons. He's not like Daniel. You know, he has a relationship with God, but he's not being faithful. But it shows that he does have a relationship with God, because when he was at his point after his victory, he was about to die of thirst, he called out to God. And it shows you that he had faith in God because God answered. It says, so God caused water to gush out of a hollow in the ground at Lehi, and Samson was revived as he drank. Then he named that place the spring of the one who cried out, and it is still in Lehi to this day. Samson was Israel's judge for 20 years while the Philistines ruled in the land. So that finishes up 15. So again, Now 16 is the last chapter, and I'm hoping y'all been with me faithfully through this so far. But 16 is where it really gets into the meat of it. This is the most important part of chapter 16. The other really is just all introduction. But now we're finally going to get ready to see the results of that sin. We finally finna get ready to see what's going to happen when you constantly live your life and you're not faithful to the thing that God wants you to do. And that's what we're about to see here. So again, he did this mighty miracle. He killed 1,000 men, but we see why God is still using them, even though he's been hard-headed. And I think I pleaded my case so far. What's up, Malcolm? Good to see you, brother. I think I pleaded my case of how hard-headed Samson is and how disrespectful he's been toward God so far. You know what I'm saying? But we see God is still using him because he still has potential. He still realizes that he gets his faith from God. His pride hasn't really swole up just yet to where he started thinking he's something special, and that's why God is still able to use him. So now we finna start seeing him get a little prideful, and this is what's going to end up calling his downfall. So now we finna start Judges chapter 16. We're finna get into Judges chapter 16. So now, again, first line, guess where he at? Once again, he's somewhere he's not supposed to be. You know, the very first line of this chapter, he's somewhere he's supposed to be. So chapter 16 starts off saying, one day, Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. Again, where's he at? Where's he at? A prostitute. He's out there with a prostitute. He's a Nazarite. He's not only supposed to be having sex outside of marriage. He definitely don't supposed to be with a prostitute and a Philistine prostitute. I mean, it is so many wrongs in that one little statement right there that is just insane for this guy to be a Nazarite to be living like this. You know what I'm saying? But again, he's doing what he wanted to do. He's doing what he wants to do. He's doing what feels good to him. He's giving into the pleasure of the flesh, and that's what's going to get him in trouble. So, like I told y'all, Samson's problem is women. So as we going through the story, I hope y'all are looking at y'all lives and realizing what is y'all problem that's comes to get you in trouble. So we see once again, where is he at? With another woman, and watch what happened because he's with this woman. He's out. He went and spent the night with a prostitute. And said, word soon spread that Samson was there. So the men of Gaza gathered together and waited all night at the city gates. They kept quiet during the night, saying to themselves, when the light of morning comes, we will kill him. So once again, his life is in jeopardy. Why? Because he's somewhere he's not supposed to be, hanging with some woman he's not supposed to be with. See, again, y'all got to realize it's the decisions that we make, the places that we go, the things that we do that determines whether we're going to have God's grace on our life and we be able to make it through the things that we're making through. You know, if you constantly go out and do the things you're not supposed to be doing, you're going to constantly find trouble in your life. You see what I'm saying? So once again, we see this trouble came. His life is in jeopardy. Why? Not because God is picking on him, not because God is trying to strike him down, but because he decided to spend the night with a prostitute, somebody that he knows he's not supposed to be with. And because he's out there hanging with this prostitute, there's another opportunity for this Philistines to take his life. So you see, so are y'all seeing it's this decision that he's making that's putting him in these predicaments. It's the decision that he's making that's getting him in trouble. It's the decision that he's making that's bringing all this drama and chaos in his life. It's not because God is picking on him, don't love him. He just keep on doing stupid stuff. That's what's getting him in trouble. The stupid decision that he's making, the stuff that he knows he's not supposed to be doing, he's doing it anyway, and therefore he's getting in trouble because of it. But once again, we see God is faithful. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what he saw in Samson, but he saw something in Samson because once again we see where he gets in trouble, but God rescues him. So it says, of course, they gather together. They like, we're going to wait till the morning and we're going to kill him. But then in verse 3 it says, but Samson only stayed in bed to midnight. So he didn't stay in bed all night. He got up. He said, then he got up, took hold of the city gates with his 2 posts and lifted them, bar and all, right out of the ground. And he put them on his shoulders and carried them all the way up to the top of a hill across from Hebron. So what did he do? He took that gate. Now you got to understand something. I want y'all to understand this because, you think a gate, that's not a big deal. Nigga, these wasn't just regular gates. These wasn't just some little flimsy wire gates like we have around our house these days. These gates were made to keep people from raiding your town. You know what I'm saying? So these were basically trees covered in iron. They weren't just some little regular gates like little wire gates. These were gates. They weighed tons. You know what I'm saying? But you can see how Samson's pride is starting to swell up. Because not only did he pull the gates out of the ground, he threw them on his shoulder and walked up the hill with them and put them on top of the hill. That's showing off. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me, that's showing off a little bit. The fact that he was able to just... Now, I can see him pull him up out the ground so he can escape. That's one thing. But to put him on his shoulders and walk all the way up a hill and put him on top of the hill, that's showing off. So now you're seeing his pride is starting to get hurt. So now in chapter 13, we saw the beginning of Samson and all the things surrounding his birth. In 14, he was a young man, maybe around 18, 24. Now in 15, he was a little bit older. He up to 30. Now in chapter 16, he's what would be considered a grown man. He's still not old yet. I would say he's around 30, somewhere in his early 30s. But he's a grown man because the Israelites consider you grown at 33. So he's a grown man at this point, but he's still foolish, man. He's still doing the same thing that's been getting him in trouble. Still hanging out with the wrong women. Now, you would have thought from the first situation he was in that he would learn to make sure you hang around the right women, don't be around women you're not supposed to, but it shows you what happened when he doesn't learn. And he hasn't learned yet. But we see the reason why he hasn't learned, because his pride has swelled up. God has blessed him so much. God has got him out of so many situations. Now he's cocky. So he, went and spent the night with a prostitute, then got up and pulled the gates out of the ground, and then walked up the top of the hill and left him on top of the hill. That's showing off. And we're going to see his pride in here, because his pride is going to end up being his downfall. So now, let's see. We're finna get into the final results, the results of sin. This is here. This is the conclusion, this chapter here. And of course, this is the famous section of the story that everybody know, him and Delilah. So it says, later on, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah who lived in the valley of Sirach. And again, guess where the valley of Sirach was at? The land of the Philistines. So once again, he's messing with some woman that he's not supposed to be messing with. This guy just would not learn. And when you won't learn, when you won't get away from those things that keep getting you in trouble, eventually it's going to be what takes you out. So once again, he's messing with another Philistine woman. He's already got into a world of trouble over these Philistine women, but yet he just refused to leave them alone. And that's what's going to get him in trouble. So it said later on he fell in love with this woman named Delilah who lived in the valley of Sirach. The leaders of the Philistines went to her and said, find out from Samson what makes him so strong. How can he be overpowered and tied up securely? Now, right there. Now, I know as y'all been going through the story, and I don't know if they've made a lot of movies about Samson, and he's always portrayed as this big, strong muscle dude. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure when y'all reading, as y'all been listening to the story, y'all imagine him some 6'5", 340 pounds of all muscle. But in reality, most likely, Samson was a small dude. Chris, Samson was probably your size, man. You know what I'm saying? Samson was probably like 5'8", 140 pounds, soaking wet. And the reason why I say that is because whenever God did something, he wanted to make sure he got the glory for it. That's why you notice some of the best preachers are the ones that used to be the bad dudes. Some of the best preachers are the ones that used to be the thugs, that used to be on drugs, the one that used to be on alcohol, and then they gave their life to God, and then they're able to do things like me, for instance. I mean, I used to sell drugs, and I used to be on drugs, do drugs and alcohol all the time, and now I'm here preaching. Why? Because y'all can see, anybody that knows me know the only way this guy was able to make this turnaround like this, God has to be real. It has to be from God. It ain't something that I'm doing myself. It's because God came into my life and he truly turned my life around when I felt his presence. So that's why the leaders went to there and said, find out what makes him so strong. Because if he was some big muscle dude, they would just assume, oh man, this nigga work out all the time. That's why he's able to do these things. Because look at all his muscles. But in reality, he was probably a little bitty dude. And they was like, man, how is this little 150-pound dude then killed 1,000 soldiers with a jawbone, and now he done picked up these 3-4 ton gates and walked them up a hill? How the heck is he able to do this? Because he had the power of God on them. And see, they didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in the Jehovah God. They believed in idols. So they didn't understand how could this little bitty dude have such power, because they didn't understand the power of God. And that's why they was like, find out what makes him so strong. You see what I'm saying? Because like I said, he was probably a little bitty dude. I honestly, when y'all imagine Samson, imagine him some little 150-pound, 5'8" nothing. But yet he had so much power of God flowing through him. He was able to kill 1,000 soldiers with a jawbone. He was able to take 2-3 ton gates, put them on the shoulder and walk them up a hill because he had God's power flowing through him. And that's what they couldn't figure out. How can this little dude do this? And they didn't know it was God's power because they didn't believe in God. So that's what they hired this girl for. And they tell him, they said, find out from Samson what makes him so strong and how he can be overpowered and tied up securely. Then each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So what do they do? Bought her off. Paid her off. Once again, they paid her off. Look, if you can do this, we'll pay you. See what I'm saying? So once again, we see Samson get, once again, we see we see Samson getting in trouble from not learning from his lesson from before. We once again see him get in trouble for messing with the wrong woman, being with somebody that's not down. And of course, this is not a sermon on Lord, but fellas, anybody that's watching this, any men, if you got a good girl that you know is down for you, man, make sure you put all your time and effort into her. You know what I'm saying? The Lord says over in Proverbs, why spill your fountain out in the streets with all these other strange women? Put your time and energy into that woman that had been having your back since day one. Because if you do that, you'll have somebody that'll have your back and always be there for you. But when you out in the streets, you come across all these strange women, you're going to hook up with somebody you think she got your back, but in reality, she's just in it for herself. And that's what's going to happen with this situation. These Philistines came to Delilah and told her, hey, if she find out what makes him so strong, they'll pay him. And guess what? She's going to accept the offer. She's going to take up the offer. So then it says, we'll give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So then Delilah says to Samson, so what she do? She took their offer and she went to him. So it said, Delilah said to Samson, please tell me what makes you so strong and what it would take to tie you up securely. So Samson replied, if I am tied up with 7 new bowstrings that have not been dried, I will be as weak as anyone else. So what did he do? He lied. You know, because he knows where his power is coming from, and he knows what it takes to take his power away. But he lied to her and just told her this funny story. And you would think he's doing it just to test her and see where her heart's at. You know what I'm saying? And she's going to reveal where her heart is at, but yet she's still going to mess with him anyway. You know what I'm saying? So again, it says, she said, what was it take? And he told her the story. So he told her, if you tie me up with 7 new bowstrings that have not been dried, I will be as weak as anyone else. So what did she do? So the Philistine leaders brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings, and she tied Samson up with them. She had hidden some men in one of the rooms of her house, and she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So what does this say to y'all? I mean, anybody out there, what is this saying? This girl is trying to get me killed. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to kill me. No, that's pretty obvious, right? Because he told her what needs to be done to get him captured, and she did exactly what he told her to do. And what did she do? And not only did she tie him up with the bowstring, she even has other niggas hanging out in her place, setting them up. Again, I talked to y'all earlier about people getting set up in Memphis. She set them up. You know what I'm saying? Had dudes hiding in the bathroom. She had dudes hiding in the bathroom waiting for him to fall asleep. And then he fell asleep. She tied him up with the bowstring so he can be captured just like he told her to do. But what she didn't realize, he was lying to her. No, he was just messing with her. So when she had the men hidden in her room, she cried out, Samson, the Philistines are going to capture you. It said, but Samson snapped the bowstrings, and if they were just string that had been burned in the fire, so his secret of his strength was not discovered. So he was just messing with her. You know what I'm saying? He would lie to her. She's like, Samson, how can you be caught? And he just gave some BS story about, oh, you tie me with these bowstrings, then I'd be caught. But the thing is, though, what he told her that needed to happen for him to be captured, that's what she did. So obviously she's trying to kill this dude. Would you not? I mean, if you had any kind of wisdom, you would say, okay, man, this girl's trying to kill me. I'm going to get from around her, right? You know what I'm saying? But again, remember when I was telling y'all earlier, one of the results of sin is a lack of wisdom and discernment. When you live in this world, you can part of this world, and when you want these things, and when you're giving it to your flesh, you don't have the wisdom to see that these things that you're spending all your time and effort into, these women that you're chasing, these drugs that you're chasing, this money that you're chasing, is solely trying to kill you. But more importantly than trying to kill you, what's worse off is trying to take you away from God. But you can't see that when you're living according to your flesh. And that's what Samson was doing. He was living according to his flesh. So even though it's obvious, and I mean, y'all would agree, he's pretty obvious that this girl is trying to get him caught. And so, you know, then me personally, you only got one time to screw me over, that's it. But not Samson, because he's foolish. He's so wrapped up in the sin that he doesn't see what's about to happen to him. So he wakes up, snaps the bowstrings, and of course he fight the dudes off. He doesn't get captured. So then it says in verse 10, check this out. Afterward, Delilah said to him. So what does that mean? He's still kicking it with her. You know what I'm saying? She just tried to get you killed. She just tried to get you captured and thrown in jail, but yet you still kicking it with her. You see what I'm saying? That's what happens when you live in sin. You lose your wisdom, you lose the discernment, and you lose the ability to make rational decisions based on what's going on around you. So she's obviously trying to kill him, but yet he's still kicking it with her. Because it said, afterward Delilah said to him. So that means even after all that happened, he still didn't leave. So it says, afterward Delilah said to him, you made fun of me and told me a lie. Now please tell me how you can be tied up securely. And Samson replied, if I am tied up with brand new ropes that have never been used, I'll be as weak as anyone else. So once again, he gives her another story. He's not telling her the truth. But he told her, if you tie me up with brand new ropes that had never been used, I will be as weak as anyone else. Apologize if y'all heard that. That's my dog drinking water. I'm sitting right beside a water bowl, and she over lapping all this water up. So I apologize about that. But we see here, well, once again, she come at Samson and try to figure out what she can do to get him killed, what she can do to get him, captured. And he tells her this fake story. If you just, bring some brand new ropes that have never been used before, and tie me up, then I'll be really, you can capture me. Samson replied. He said, I'm tied up with brand new ropes that have never been used. I will be as weak as anyone else. So, he lied again. So what did she do? He said, so Delilah took new ropes and tied them up with them. And men were hiding in the room just as before. And again, Delilah cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. But Samson snapped the ropes from his arms as they were thread. So once again, she set him up again. So that's twice, bro. First time, okay, she just made a mistake. She was being ignorant. Second time, that's deliberate. You know what I'm saying? What is that saying? Fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So this twice, she's trying to find the information she needs from him to get him captured. And twice he's told her the story. And twice the thing that he told her to do is exactly what she did. So is it not obvious that she's trying to kill him? Is it not obvious that she's trying to take him out? But has he learned yet? No, because guess what the very next line is? It says, then Delilah said, you have been making fun of me. So what does that mean? He's still with her. Twice she's tried to set this dude up. She's even had dudes in her house waiting to take him out twice, and yet he's still hanging with her and he's still kicking it with her, even though he knows without a doubt. First time, like I said, okay, maybe there was just a misunderstanding. Second time, he knows she's trying to kill him, but yet he's still messing with her. There is no way in the world, if this man had any kind of wisdom, if he was living for God, there's no way in the world there would be a third time. But guess what it says next? It says, then Delilah said, you have been making fun of me and telling me lies. Why won't you just please tell me how you can be tied up securely? So for a third time, this chick is asking him the same question. And what are you going to say? Samson replied, if you weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric of your loom and tighten it with the loom shuttle, I will be just as weak as everyone else. So once again, he give her this fake news, this fake story. If you just tie my hair in the fabric of this loom shuttle, then I'll be and tighten it with tie the fabric of your hair to the loom and tighten it with a loom shuttle, I'll be just as weak as everyone else. So check this next line out though. This shows you how ignorant Samson was and how hard-headed it was. So it says, while he slept. So twice already this lady has tried to set him up. Twice she's had dudes in her house waiting for him. And yet the third time he was so ignorant. He was so foolish. He was so wrapped up in his sin that not only was he still hanging with her, he was laying in her house asleep. So it says, while he slept, Delilah wove the 7 braids of his hair into the fabric and tightened it with a loom shuttle. And again she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. But Samson woke up and pulled back the loom shuttle and yanked his hair away from the loom of the fabric. 3 times, bruh. You only get 3 strikes in baseball. You know what I'm saying? You only get 3. In California, they got that law, 3 strikes. You only get 3 strikes. After that, you're done. So this is 3 times this lady set him up. 3 times she tried to do the exact thing that he said that can be done for him to be killed or captured. And 3 times she's done it, and yet he's still with her. Now, at this point, let's go back. I don't know if y'all was here. A lot of y'all wasn't here from the beginning, the very beginning. But in the very beginning, I posed the question. I said, how many of us have gotten in trouble before? And of course, I raised my hand. Show of hands. Other people agreed. And then I also said, how many of us have gotten in trouble for the same thing before? And again, I agreed. So you look at him, you're like, how dumb can this dude be? But yet we do the same thing. When you got something that's constantly getting you in trouble, if it's alcohol that's constantly getting you in trouble, if it's drugs that's constantly getting you in trouble, if it's weed that's constantly making you lose your job, if it's women that's constantly getting you in trouble, but yet you're still going back and you're smoking weed, you're still going back to drinking, and you're still going back to chasing these women, guess what? You're doing the exact same thing that Samson's doing. Now, we can sit here and look at him and call him dumb, but yet we do the exact same thing. So that's why you should never judge other people, because the very thing that you're judging other people about is the very same thing you're doing. They're just doing it in a different direction. Now, with him, it should be pretty obvious that she's trying to kill him, right? It's pretty obvious, but he can't see it because of the results of sin. That's one of the things. Sin blinds you to the dangers that's right in front of you. It blinds you to the dangers of those drugs. It blinds you to the dangers of those women. It blinds you to the dangers of that alcohol. It blinds you to the dangers of that gambling or whatever it is. It blinds you to the danger of chasing that money. Whatever it is that keep getting you in trouble, it blinds you to that because you're so focused on the sin and enjoying the pleasure that is sin that you don't see the trouble that's before you. See, that's what happens. So while we're reading this, we're easily like, man, this dude is an idiot. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we can say the same thing about ourselves because we've all done something that got us in trouble, and we've all done something that's got us in trouble more than once. You see what I'm saying? So before you call him an idiot, you look at yourself and realize that you're talking about yourself as well, because we all do that. Because the reason why we don't see the final results of sin. So now, guess what? We about to see the final results of sin. I know it's been a long one, but we about to finally get to see the results of sin. So at this point, we got 3 times Delilah captured Samson had to get captured. We got 3 times where he gave her fake stories, and we got 3 times where she set him up to get captured. But yet, again, his flesh was getting him in trouble, but God kept getting him out. So God is still with him at this point. So therefore, that's why he's able to constantly avoid this trouble. But guess what happened? He's going to have a 4th time. See, this is what something y'all got to understand. God will keep rescuing you. It might be something out there you've done a million times. You might be out there, you might be a thief, and you might have stole something from Walmart a million times. But guess what? Eventually, and God might have allowed that to happen, but eventually God going to get tired of playing with you. And that's one thing you got to understand. When you're out there, you doing something you know you're not supposed to be doing, eventually God going to get tired of playing with you, and he's going to take his hand off of your life. And when he do, that's when the trouble comes in. And this was going to happen to Samson. So far, you got 3 times where this lady's tried to kill him. 3 times where it's pretty obviously she's trying to kill him. But yet he kept going back. So eventually God going to get tired of him because he's going to go back a 4th time. He should have left after the 1st time, but he's going to go back for a 4th time. And that's when God going to say, okay, this dude ain't learning. I'm just going to take my hand off of him. So watch what happened. So it says he went back. No, of course, he pulled her from the loom shadow and yanked his hair away and from the loom shadow. Then Delilah pouted. How can you say, and again, this is how I feel, when I imagine her pouting, this is how I imagine her crying to him. Oh, how can you say you love me when you don't even confide in me? You've made fun of me these 3 times, and now you haven't even told me what makes you so strong. So day after day, she nagged him till he couldn't stand it any longer. Now, the King James Version on that, again, I'm telling y'all the way the King James Version said, it says, and it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him so that his soul was vexed him to death. In other words, she nagged this dude so much that he just rather die than continue to dealing with her nagging. But in reality, he should have just left. You know, she's obviously trying to kill him. Why not just leave her? But instead, again, that's what sin do. You get so wrapped up in the sin that you rather stay and be miserable instead of leaving that sin alone and going to somewhere where God can give you peace in your life. You rather just stay in this relationship and be miserable. You know what I'm saying? I see it all the time. Like I said, I see the same thing with drug addicts. I see it with men that just taste women, but I also see this a lot with women that get into abusive relationships. You know what I'm saying? They go from one abusive relationship to another. And you'd be like, how can you continue to get into these abusive relationships? Because there's a sin there that's blinding them from the truth, that's keeping them from seeing the danger that they're in. And unfortunately for a lot of women, they end up being dead or seriously hospitalized before they finally open their eyes up to see, oh, I shouldn't have been messing with this dude in the first place. You see what I'm saying? And again, it's so easy to point fingers at people and be like how dumb they must be, but we do the same thing when we do things that we know we're not supposed to be doing and we get in trouble for it. It might not be as bad as what Samson is dealing with right now, but we do the same thing. And if you keep on, if God keeps giving you warning, he keeps pulling you out these situations, but yet you keep going back to the situation, eventually he's just going to take his hand off of you and he's going to let whatever happen. So he was with Delilah, and for this 4th time, it said she nagged him so much that he'd rather die than deal with her. So instead of just getting out of a relationship and leaving the relationship alone and leaving Delilah alone, he stayed there and he said, well, I'd rather die than to deal with this nagging. So what happened? In 17, now again, she's already asked him 3 times what can happen to take his strength away, and he told her lies, and she set him up each 3 times. But yet, this 4th time it says what in chapter 16, verse 17 it says, finally Samson told her his secret. Now again, in King James Version, I like the way it words it a little bit better. It says, finally, he nagged him to death that he told her all his heart. So in other words, he told her everything. Yeah, look, you know what I'm saying? He finally, she nagged him so much, he finally told her the truth. Now, she's already tried to kill this dude 3 times, but yet he's still going back. And it seems idiotic, but we do the same things when we're out there and we're chasing women, we're doing drugs, we're doing alcohol, and we won't leave this stuff alone, even though we get in trouble time and time again. How many people you know that had 2, 3, 4 DUIs? How many people you know been locked up 3, 4 times for drugs? You know what I'm saying? That's the same thing they're doing was the same thing that Samson doing. Now, eventually, it's going to cost him his life, and eventually it can cost us our life if we do the same thing. So we see here, even though 3 times she's tried to kill him, the 4th time she finally got him. It says, finally, Samson told her his secret. My hair has never been cut, he confessed, for I was dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as anyone else. Why in the hell would he tell her that when he knows she's trying to kill him? You know what I'm saying? This seems so stupid. How can you be so stupid and tell her exactly what she need to know to kill you? But that's what happened again. That's the results of sin. You don't have wisdom. You don't have discernment. You don't have enough wisdom about yourself to understand when you're in a dangerous situation. You can't see the danger before you because you're so wrapped up in the pleasure before you. See, that pleasure will blind your eyes to the fact of the dangers. And that's what happened with Samson. So he was so, I don't know what Delilah had that he liked. I mean, she must have been fine as crap. You know what I'm saying? She must have been so fine that he just couldn't give her up. You know what I'm saying? She whatever she did to him, she really put it on him. She had him whipped. I mean, that's the only way that you can look at it. She had him whipped, and she had him so whipped that he was willing to die for her. You know what I'm saying? So then he said, so it says in verse 18, Delilah realized he had finally told her the truth. So she sent for the Philistine leaders. Come back one more time, she said, for he has told me everything. This now I done got it out of him. This nigga done told me everything. Now come on back, we got him. You see what I'm saying? So you see, he was with this girl, and he was actually, the sad part about it was, he was probably dedicated to this girl. That's probably another reason why he didn't love her. He really loved her. He really had feelings for her. He probably really thought she was the one for him, but she wasn't for him. He was for her, but she wasn't for him. And see, in a relationship, you got to be for each other. You know what I'm saying? Your wife got to be for you, and you got to be for your wife. Because if not, if one of y'all are disloyal, then your relationship will never work. You see what I'm saying? Y'all got to make sure y'all got each other's back. And you see, Samson had her back, but she didn't have Samson back. That's why it's so important to make sure that whoever you decide to spend your time with, whoever you put your faith and trust into, is somebody that's really doing the same thing to you. You got your faith and trust in them, they got their faith and trust in you. Make sure of that. That's important, because if not, it'll be your downfall. And that was Samson's downfall. He put all his faith and trust into her, but she wasn't putting her faith and trust in him. And what happened? So she told the Philistines to come back. So it says, again, shows how ignorant he is. Delilah loved Samson to sleep with his head in her lap, and she called in a man to shave off his hair, making his captain certain. So he was so cocky. And at this point, I feel his pride. And I'm going to show you this next line, going to show you why I say that. I feel at this point, God has been doing so much for him and had protected him so much and have put him out of so many bad situations so many times that he was prideful. I ain't worried about this. God going to take care of it. You know what I'm saying? How many times, man, I done did this before and God got me out of it. I ain't even worried about it. And that's what happened to Samson, I believe, at this point. He had got so prideful that he was like, you know what I'm saying? God going to take care of me. I'm not even worried about it. So he was so comfortable. He was so prideful that not only was he still hanging with this chick that was always trying to kill him, he was even sleeping with her, and he fell asleep with her head in his lap. And he was so asleep that he couldn't even realize that a dude came in and cut his hair. You know what I'm saying? If I'm laying in my bed and somebody comes to me some clipper, I'm going to jump up immediately. Like, oh, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? But he was so comfortable being around this girl, even though she was trying to do him harm, that he was laying there in such a deep sleep that she was able to have a man come in and shave his hair off. And it says, now this is important, check this out. It says, so she loved him to sleep with his head in her lap, and she called in a man to shave off his hair, making his captor certain, and his strength left him. So it said his strength left him with his hair when his hair was cut, but that's not why he got captured. And I'm going to show y'all this. So it said his strength left him. Then she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So when he woke up, he thought, I would just do as before and shake myself free. See, there go the pride thing. See, God had rescued him so many times he had been in bad situations, God pulled him out, that he was prideful. And what'd he say? Oh, I just get up and snap the ropes and shake myself free as I did before. It ain't no big deal. I done did this before. Yeah, I done got in trouble. How many dudes, man, I done been in jail before. I just get myself out. You know what I'm saying? I done been in trouble with these girls before. I just get myself out. I just spit that game and get out of this trouble. I've done it before. I'll do it again. See, that's pride. But what he didn't realize, the reason why he was able to do those things because he had God with him. So check out this next line, y'all. This next line right here is very important. This is probably the most, all the crap, I ain't gonna say crap, all the stuff I've been saying today running my mouth, this is the most important statement that's gonna be made here. This is the ultimate result of sin right here. This is my number 9. This is the ultimate result of sin right here. So it says, saying she called out to Samson. She cried out to Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. When he woke up, he thought, I would do as before and shake myself free. Now here you go. He said, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. That's it right there. That's the key right there. He didn't realize the Lord had left him. See, it said up there, it said his strength left him. But see, because the Lord was his strength. See, he had got to depend on himself. He had got cocky. How many times, he killed 1,000 dudes with a jawbone. So he had got cocky. So that's why he was still hanging out with this girl, even though she was trying to kill him. But he didn't realize the reason why he was able to do the things he was able to do. The reason why he had the talent that he had was because of God was with him. So that moment when God left him, guess what happened? You know what I'm saying? He got captured. See, he said he woke up and said, I shake myself free as before, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. That is the 9th result of sin. Now, there's still 3 more final results, but to me, this is the worst one. Because the 9th result of sin is you lose God's grace on your life. That's what happened. When you out here living your life, doing what you want to do, constantly running back and forth, doing those things you know you're not supposed to be doing, hooking up with the women you're not supposed to be hooking up with, drinking those drinks you're not supposed to be drinking, smoking that weed, whatever it is that keeps getting you in trouble. When you constantly doing that, God allowed it to happen for so long because he's like, okay, maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe this time, you know what I'm saying, maybe I can get his attention. Maybe he'll still do something for me. But God eventually, he'll get tired of messing with you. God eventually get tired of playing with you, and eventually he'll just take his hand off your life. And that's what happened here. It says he didn't realize why God had that God had left him. So now let me ask y'all a question. See if anybody out there know. Now, if you've had this lesson before, don't ruin it. But anybody out there understand, why do you think? Now we went through 3 chapters of Samson's life. He's been drinking and he ain't supposed to. He's murdered people. He's robbed people. You know what I'm saying? He burnt the Philistines' land down, burnt up all their crop and made them lose all their money. So of all this bad stuff he's done, why do you think it's now that God finally left him? You know what I'm saying? I'll give y'all a second to answer. I'm giving a drink of water. And if anybody want to answer. Sorry about that. But why do you think now that God left him? And I didn't see nobody answer, so I'm going to tell you. Because, think about it. What did I tell y'all in the beginning? What was the Nazarite laws? What was in the beginning? It was 3 things, like they had 613 commandments. It wasn't pride. Pride was a part of it, but it wasn't pride, actually. And I'm going to tell you what it is. You remember in the beginning, I told y'all, there was 613 commandments that the Israelites had to follow. But there was 3, as a Nazarite, there was 3 other ones that you had to follow that went beyond the 613. One of them was you couldn't drink or have any grapes or eat grapes or things of that nature, which we know he's already violated that. The second one was you couldn't be around a dead body or touch a dead body, which we know he violated that. But the third one was what? Couldn't cut his hair. So see, even though he broke all the other laws, there was still one there that he hadn't broken. He hadn't cut his hair. And what the hair was to God, it was a symbol of potential. And that's what you got to understand. As long as Samson still had that hair, God knew he still has a potential to do something for me. He still got potential. Because you remember what I asked y'all? I don't understand what God was seeing in Samson. What he was seeing was the potential that Samson had. Well, yeah, he's done every single thing he wasn't supposed to. He's been hooking up with prostitutes. He's been hooking up with all these Philistine women that he wasn't supposed to. But guess what? He hadn't cut his hair yet. So as long as he hadn't cut his hair, then guess what? He still got the potential to do something for me. So when he cut his hair, guess what? He had broken every single law that God had given him. At that point, he had did every single thing God told him not to do. He did every single thing God told him not to do. So what happened? He lost God's grace because of it. See, as long as he had the hair, he still had potential. And that's what I want y'all to understand. The devil will do his best to make you feel that you're worthless. The devil will do his best to make you feel that you're not worthy to do God's work. The devil will do everything he can to convince you that you're nothing and God ain't going to do nothing with you in your life. But you got to realize that as long as you're breathing every day, as long as you wake up every day, you get up every morning, you still have the potential to do something for God. You know what I'm saying? You just got to start making different decisions and start getting closer to him. But as long as you got you breathing air in your lungs, and you can talk and you can walk and you can do something for God. And see, that's what he saw in Samson. Samson had broke every single law up until this point. Everything God told him not to do, he had did it, but he still had his hair. So there was still potential there for Samson. But once the hair was cut, guess what? All the potential was gone. He said, all right, he ain't listening. You know what I'm saying? He didn't touch dead bodies. He didn't kill people. He didn't drink. But now he didn't cut his hair. I got to take my hand off of him. And now Samson's going to see what happens when you don't have God in your life. And that's what happened. You can keep on playing with God for so long. God will keep on rescuing you. But there's going to eventually come a point where God's going to get tired of you playing with him. And he's going to take his hand off your life. Now, I want you to understand, it's not that God punished him. God didn't punish him for not listening. All God did, what it said, he didn't realize God had left him. So when you see your life and you got the problems coming into your life, you got all it seem like one thing after another. When it rains, it pours. Maybe what you're looking at is the fact that God has took his hand off your life, and now he's going to let you fully pay for the consequences of your actions. Because we've seen so far, every time Samson did something, got in trouble, God came and rescued him. But now he's in trouble, and guess what? God not going to come rescue him because he's lost God's grace on his life. So what happened? It says, he woke up and he said, I will do this before and shake myself free, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. So guess what happened? So the Philistines captured him and they gouged out his eyes. You see what I'm saying? Yes, actually, that's exactly what happened. God left him to his own devices. See, that's what God would do. Right now, if you got stuff that you know you're not supposed to be doing, God is working on your heart about it. We know things that we're not supposed to be doing, and God is working on your heart about it. But if you're going to keep on doing it, regardless of how many times God rescues you, if you're going to keep on doing it, regardless of how many times God gives you warning, then guess what? He's just going to lead you to your own devices. All right? If that's what if Sam, you want to chase these women, keep on chasing these women, even though you've gotten in trouble all this time, then guess what? Here you go. You can have at it. And what happened? It says the Philistines captured him and they gouged out his eyes. Now, you got to understand something. This is not like today's time where they would have took him to a medical room and doctors would have been around all clean and they would have had knives and made incisions and pulled his eyes out. No, this was brutal. What they would do, they would take a hot poker and they would stick it into your eye and they would pop the eye out. And at the same time, with the poker being so hot, it would singe all the nerves and the nerve endings in the eye. So they pretty much burnt your eyes out. You see what I'm saying? So this was brutal. This is probably the most painful thing that Samson had ever encountered. And you see why he's going to change his heart, because now, so up until this point, everything Samson has done has not affected him. This is the first time that something has happened to Samson himself as his result of sin. And see, that's what sin does. It'll let you, you know what I'm saying? It'll let you feel good and it'll feel good to you and it'll affect everybody around you. But what I told you, eventually it's going to come around and it's going to bite you in your butt. And that's what's happening. Now, Samson's getting to the point where it's bitten him in his butt. So now the 10th result of sin is bodily injury. Eventually it'll happen. How many times y'all know dudes that was drunk driving? They had 2, 3, 4 DUIs. And then finally what happened? They have a wreck and end up in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Or break their back. Or they end up killing somebody. You know what I'm saying? Something bad happened. See, those first 2, 3 DUIs, that was God giving them the warning. You know what I'm saying? But when God saw that they weren't heeding the warning, then he let something major happen to them. He left them to their own devices. And that's why they had that wreck. Or that's why they end up killing somebody. Because God took his hand off of them. He took his hand of protection away from them. And that's what happened. So that's what happened when the result of sin, number 10, he lost his eyes. But guess what else happened to him? So it said the Philistines captured him. They gouged out his eyes. Then they took him to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze chains and made to grind grain in the prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. So not only did he lose his eyes, he lost his freedom. See, that's the 11th result of sin, a loss of freedom. Sin, that's what sin does, man. That's what I want y'all to understand. Sin is designed to take things away from you. One is the most important thing is designed to take you away from God. But another thing is designed to take away your peace. It's designed to take away your stability. That's what sin does. But the thing is, the reason why it's so effective, because it feels good. You know, hooking up with all them girls, that feels good. Smoking that weed, it feels good. You know, popping them pills, it feels good. So you don't see what is taken from you. It's giving you this pleasure, but you don't realize it's taking more from you than it's giving you. And that's why we never get away from it, because of what it's given us in the beginning. But when it comes around and bites you in your butt, then you'll be like, oh man. Because think about it, if Samson knew that he was one day going to end up with his eyes burned out, gouged out, and stuck in prison, he would have ran away from it. He probably wouldn't even never hooked up with a woman, period, if he knew that was going to be the end. But see, he couldn't see the results of the end results of their sin. And that's why the name of this chapter, this lesson, is the results of sin. See, if we knew, it's certain things that we know now, most of us are adults, so it's certain things that we look back on our life now like, man, I wish I would have knew then what I know now. I would never would have did this or that and that. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to look back and see, but what you got to do, you got to get to a point where you see that stuff before it get to that point. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to see Delilah before Delilah happened. You got to realize, oh man, this is Delilah. If you come to get in trouble with women, oh man, that's a Delilah. You know, if you come to get in trouble with drugs, that's a Delilah. If you come to get in trouble with alcohol, that's Delilah. You got to get to a point where you can see it before it comes to this. So now, because he wasn't seeing it in the beginning, and because he wasn't yielding to the warnings that God was giving him, now he's lost his eyes and he's lost his freedom. So he went from being a judge. A judge was basically like a king. Before they had kings, it would be the level of a king for the Israel. So he basically went to a king to a nothing. He went to a prisoner. He went from being a king, being able to be a king, to having the possibility of being a king in Israel, to being a prisoner with his eyes gouged out, grinding grain. And then it's going to give you worse. He's going to even lose even more of his status. So again, in comparison with the lesson that I did with y'all, the last two lessons I did with y'all on Daniel, we saw how Daniel kept getting elevated because of God. He was faithful to God. We saw how he was always protected because of God. You know what I'm saying? Because of his faithfulness. Now we're seeing what happened when you're not faithful. And that's why I want to do this lesson right after I did the lesson of Daniel. Because Daniel was what happens, God's glory and grace that you get for being faithful, where Samson is what happened when you're not faithful. You see what I'm saying? So because he wasn't faithful, he's lost his eyes, he's lost his freedom. And guess what else? It says, then the Philistines' leader had a great festival, offering sacrifices and praises to their god, Dagon. And they said, our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson. So now what's happening? God is losing glory. It diminishes when you out there. When you're out there, I'm just getting into it out these eyes actually, so you didn't miss much. When you're out there living your life the way you want to and doing the things you want to do, then guess what? It diminishes God's glory. So again, in comparison, when we saw Daniel, everything Daniel did brought glory to God. You know what I'm saying? And it showed them pagans that their God wasn't the real God. But look, it's reversed now. Because Samson wasn't faithful, guess what happened? They said, our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson. So now it's making their God, they feel that their God was the reason why they had the power to capture Samson, because it wasn't because of their God was so strong, it's because Samson wasn't following the laws and commandments of his God, and his God left him. So you see what happens when you're doing what you're supposed, not doing what you're not supposed to be doing, it diminishes the glory of God. So now you got these pagans thinking their God is something big and bad and not giving credit to the real Jehovah God. It's making God look bad. And what did I tell y'all last week? I said when your life is going to do either one of two things. It's either going to make God look good or it's going to make God look bad. And we saw Daniel was faithful, so he made God look good. And we saw Samson wasn't faithful, so he made God look bad. And there's the proof right there. He said, our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson. And then in 24 it says, when the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has delivered our enemy to us. The one who killed so many of us is now in our power. You see what I'm saying? So what happened? It gave their God glory because they weren't doing what they supposed to do. And see, that's what upsets God more than anything. When you're supposed to be a Christian, you're supposed to be one of his people, and you're out there doing things that make him look bad. If y'all are familiar with the story of David, which we're gonna actually get into David, the next the chapter I'm gonna do Monday is over the life of David. If y'all familiar with David, the Lord said about David, he was a man after my own heart. But later on, after David became king, he got prideful and he ended up having an affair with this lady named Bathsheba, and then he killed her husband to cover it up. When God punished him, he didn't even punish him for the affair, or he didn't even punish him for the murder. Guess why he punished him? You know what I'm saying? Guess why he punished him? He said he punished him. When you read through David, and I hope y'all will read, it says, because you have given my enemies an occasion against me. In other words, because you gave these naysayers, these God haters, ammunition against me, that's why he got punished. You see what I'm saying? That's why he got punished, because he was living in a way that diminished God's glory, and it gave the naysayers something to say, look at David, he's supposed to be a man after God's own heart. And look, he just sit there and had an affair and killed a man. So it gave the naysayers, why would I serve God? So it gave the naysayers a reason to doubt God. And that's why David got in trouble. That's the same reason why Samson is getting in trouble. He gave these unbelievers a reason to believe that their God was better than him. You know what I'm saying? And their God wasn't God's at all, but their God got glory because they were able to capture Samson, not because God can rescue Samson, but because Samson was hell bent on doing what he wanted to do, and he diminished the glory of God. So then it says, half drunk by now, the people demanded, bring out Samson so he can perform for us. So he was brought from the prison and made to stand at the center of the temple between the two pillars supporting the roof. So now, again, this guy went from being basically a king. He wasn't a king because Israel didn't have a king until Saul came along. But he wasn't a king. He wasn't a king when he saw he wasn't a king, but he had the potential to be a king. So he went from being the potential of a king or like a kingly like figure to being a prisoner with his eyes gouged out, and now he's there to entertain drunk people. You know what I'm saying? To put on the show for the drunk people. They making fun of him. They bring him into this Coliseum so they can make fun of him. See, that's what happened when God takes his hand off your life. And God will only take his hand off your life when he sees that you're not listening to the warnings that he's giving you. When you're not doing the things that you know you're supposed to be doing. And when you're hell bent on doing what you want to do instead of doing what he wants you to do, then eventually he'll take your hand off your life. And that's when you start losing his grace. That's when you start losing his glory. That's when things start getting bad. And you see, again, we saw last week where Daniel kept getting elevated and kept getting promoted. And we see here where Samson is going down, 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 down. First he was captured. First he was in prison. Now he's just like a court jester. Somebody they put him in front of the drunk people. So then Samson said, but this is one thing, and this is the next, I told y'all the fact that you got to realize that sin takes God's grace from your life. But I want y'all to understand something else, another very important point in this lesson here. And this comes up right here. Samson said to the servant who was leading him by the hand, place my hands against the two pillars. I want to rest against them. Then the temple was completely filled with people. All the Philistine leaders were there, and there were about 3,000 on the roof who were watching Samson and making fun of him. So he's in this Coliseum, and you got to understand this is full. Now let's get back to our body count, because he ain't killed nobody in a while. But up until this point, so far, and to go back to it, because there's one man somewhere he wasn't supposed to be doing something he wasn't supposed to do. So far, up until this point, we have 1,082 people that has lost their lives by our count. You know what I'm saying? So now he's in this Coliseum full of people, and there's 3,000 on the roof, and it's a big Coliseum. So we can just imagine that's, let's say, about 30,000. No, Adelphia can fit a whole lot of people, but it wasn't quite as big as Adelphia. But let's just say there was 30,000 people in the Coliseum, and then there was another 3,000 on the roof. So let's say altogether there's about 33,000 people watching him, making fun of him right now. So I want y'all to remember that number, okay? So it says that they was full, and there was about 3,000 on the roof. So it was packed tight because they all wanted to make fun of him. Then it said, and this is what I'm talking about. This is another important lesson. It said, then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me again." So what did he say? What did he do? He finally humbled himself and went back to the Lord. And he said, "Lord, remember me again. Remember me again." So I want y'all to understand something. Even if you get off the Lord's path, the Lord would never completely go away from you. He would never completely leave you and desert you. But he will let you go of your own devices, and you have to pay the consequences of your action. He will take his hand off of you. But once he takes his hand off of you and you come back to him, he'll come back again. Because he said, Samson prayed to him, he said, "Oh, sovereign Lord, remember me again." So what happened? He got back to God. He realized he had messed up. He realized he had got proudful. He realized that he messed up God's will for his life. But he asked, "Lord, please come back to me again." And what did the Lord do? He said, "Lord, please remember me again. Oh God, please strengthen me one more time so that I may pay back the Philistines for the loss of my eyes." Then Samson put his hands on the center pillars of the temple and pushed against them with all his might. "Let me die with the Philistines," he prayed. And the temple crashed down on those Philistine leaders and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had during his entire lifetime. So altogether, that brings our death tolls about 35,000 people that lost their lives because of one man making bad decisions. So now do y'all see the results of sin? And that right there was our final result. Result number 13 is what? Death. If you go over to Romans 6:23, it's something that I use when I when I go out and I spread the gospel. It says, "And the wages of sin is what? Death." So that's what sin eventually leads to, death. And of course, it's not talking about a physical death, it's talking about a spiritual death. But in this case, it also led to a physical death. His sin of chasing women eventually put him in a position where he was in prison and lost his eyes, and now he lost his life. So instead of him being able to live like a king, because again, he was supposed to be a judge. And you see Gideon was a great warrior. He led the armies of Israel, and he was able to capture the Israelites, release the Israelites from the people that were held them captive at the time as a warrior. That's what Samson could have did. But because of his hard-headedness, because he was so determined to chase women, he ended up dying like a peasant. So instead of him being able to die in peace, surrounded by his family, he died in violence, in a violent way, surrounded by his enemies because of his sin. So that's what I want y'all to see. That's what's waiting at the end of that road. Whatever the thing is that you got in your life that you can't get rid of, realize that thing is not only trying to kill you, but it's trying to pull you, more importantly, it's trying to pull you away from God. And if it pulls you away from God, then the devil will be able to do anything he wants to you. Because you see, both times when Samson had major attacks on his life, what happened? He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. So he was out of God's will, and therefore he was attacked by the lion. The first time he was attacked by the lion, the second time he was hooking up with the prostitute, and the men of the city tried to kill him. So that's what happens when you get out of God's will. You open yourself up to attacks from the devil. The devil tries to attack you when you're in God's will, but he definitely going to try to attack you when you're out of God's will. Because when he attacks you when you're in God's will, you still got God's power in your life, God to protect you, as we saw he did with Samuel. But when he attacks you when you're out of God's will and you don't have God's grace in your life, he would be able to be successful against you. And we see here, Samson died in prison with no eyes, surrounded by his enemies, all because of his results of sin. So that's the lesson, y'all. And just to finish up the chapter, it says, later his brother and other relatives went down to get his body. They took him back home and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father Manoah was buried. And Samson had been Israel's judge for 20 years. So again, that's the lesson there, y'all. And that's the importance. That's the thing I want y'all to understand. The results. When y'all making all those decisions, when you're out there, you're doing those stuff, we all do stuff we know we're not supposed to do. But I just want y'all to realize when you're doing those things that you're not supposed to do, when you're in those places you're not supposed to be, you're opening yourself up, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're opening yourself up for the attacks of the devil. You're putting yourself in a position where the devil can get to you. And more importantly, the most important part is you're putting yourself in a position where you'll lose God's grace in your life. And that's the worst part of it. That's the worst part of sin. So just to recap, there was 13 results of sin that we saw from the life of Samson. Number 1 was the lust of the eyes that he had. Number 2 was disobedience. He never listened to his father when his father told him what to do. His father told him to stay away from them Philistines women, and we see what happened because he didn't. Number 3, he had a lack of wisdom and discernment. He couldn't even see when Delilah was trying to kill him. 4 different times she asked him what she needed to do to kill him, and 4 different times he told her, and she eventually killed him because he had that lack of wisdom and discernment. Pride. He got prideful. He got to thinking he was somebody big and bad. Number 5 was violence and negativity in the lives of the people around you. Look how many people was affected by this man's bad decisions. More people was affected by his bad decision than he was affected himself, and that's why he never stopped. Number 6, you see, there was a financial collapse when he burnt all the grain of the Philistines. Number 7, we had a loss of love and loved ones. We saw that people that he knew was killed and murdered. His father-in-law and his wife was murdered. His family turned their back on him, all because of this sin. Number 8 was a life of turmoil and instability. We see Samson didn't have no stability in his life. At one point, he had to live in a cage because he couldn't even go home because he wasn't doing the things he was supposed to do. But number 9 was one of the most important ones. You lose God's grace in your life. That's one of the worst results of sin, by losing God's grace in your life. Number 10, bodily injury. We saw where he lost his eyes. Number 11 was the loss of freedom. We saw where he was in prison. Number 12 was it diminishes the glory of God. We saw how the other guys started praising their God because they was able to capture Samson. And then number 13, the final thing was death. He finally ended up dying surrounded by his enemies. Instead of dying in peace surrounded by his family, he died in turmoil surrounded by his enemies. Those are the results of sin. And thank you all for, Pat, you my dog, man. Chris, Ashley, y'all are soldiers. Y'all stayed with me through the whole thing. I know it was a pretty long lesson, but y'all see why I didn't want to break it up. You know what I'm saying? I figured with this being a video, people can just stop and go and fast forward what they want to, but I didn't want to break it up and take the possibility of somebody seeing one video and not seeing the other, because it all intertwined. That whole story together shows you the whole picture of sin, which is what I wanted to do. You got to see sin from the beginning, where it was feeling good and he was feeling good, pretty good about it, to what happened in the end, where he lost his eyes, lost his freedom, and eventually he lost his life. That's the results of sin. So from now on, again, when you live in your life, as y'all going out there and y'all going out there and you're doing things, you're making these decisions, man, stop and think. How's this going to affect the people around me? Or stop and think, is this my Delilah? Is this thing that's going to eventually take me out because I keep on going back to it? You know what I'm saying? Again, it can be women, it can be men, it can be drugs, it can be alcohol, it can be whatever. Whatever it is in your life that keeps getting you in trouble, that is your Delilah. Get away from that thing. Because I'm pretty sure if Samson knew when at the beginning of his life that these women was going to eventually get him in trouble, land him in prison with his eyes gouged out, dying around his enemies, he would have ran the other way. You know, he would have ran the other way, but because he couldn't see the results of their sin, he couldn't see the end game of their sin, he kept on going down that road to eventually that sin that he was so involved in that had him so blinded, eventually literally took his eyes and took his life away from him. Those are the results of sin. So I thank y'all for joining me as always. Remember, if y'all didn't get to watch the whole thing, it'll be on my YouTube page, God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries. And just also remember, if there's any questions that you have, anybody need to get in touch with me about anything, you can always welcome to inbox me. And if you need my number where you want to talk and ain't something you want to do through inbox, just inbox me and I'll send you my number as well. But like I said, my whole point of doing this ministry is to help people build a relationship with God and to help people see the things in their life that they can change, that'll bring them closer to God. You know what I'm saying? So I thank you for everything that you've done. I thank you for being with us tonight. And I'm going to say a prayer and I'm going to end this lesson because I've already talked enough. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your word, Lord. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share your word with these people. That everyone that decided to tune in tonight, it's such a blessing that you giving me this outreach where I can still get to preach your word, even though I can't go door to door like I used to do. I can still preach your word, Lord, and it's such a blessing for me because I just want to make sure your word get out. I want people to see, because a lot of the things that we do, we don't really understand. We can't see the end of that road that we start down. We can't see the end of what's going to happen to us from chasing women all the time, or gambling all the time, or chasing money, or drinking. We don't see the end, but you do, Lord. And because we can't see the end, we keep on going blindly down this road until we get to a point where you just take your hand and your grace away from us, Lord. And I pray that from this lesson, people will be able to see that beforehand in their lives. They will see beforehand when they're dealing with the Delilah and have the wisdom to go away from that, get away from that situation before it ends badly like it did for Samson, Lord. I thank you for Samson's life. I do hate that he had to go through what he went through, but because he went through what he went through, we're able to learn from it and have a better life and have be able to make better decisions and have the wisdom that he didn't have, so we can stay away from the Delilahs in our lives, Lord. So I thank you for sending your spirit down upon me and showing me that message. I thank you for giving me the ability to bring it to people. I hope they were able to understand and relate to it, because we all do something we're not supposed to do that eventually that will take us away from you if we don't get away from it, Lord. So I thank you for that, and I just thank you for being with us tonight, giving us another day on this earth. And now, Lord, I ask you just watch over us as we finish out this night. Keep your hand upon us as we rest up and finish out this day. I pray that everybody out there is safe. Give them your power, love, and wisdom over any problem that's going on in their families right now, Lord, because we're all going through something. And I pray you just keep your hand upon us and give us the encouragement and enthusiasm we need to continue to be faithful to you, even though things are rough. You know, no matter what we're going through, you promise to bring us through it, Lord, and I pray you help us keep the faith. I pray you be with all your servants out there that completely have their heart given to serving your purpose, your will, and definitely be with the missionaries in foreign territory that are persecuted for spreading your word, Lord. All those fellow Christians that are persecuted and killed and tortured for believing in you, Lord. I just pray you keep your hand upon them and send your mercy upon them, but more importantly, give them the faith that when their faith is tested, their faith will not fail not, Lord. I actually keep your hand upon my family, continue to use us to do a mighty work. Keep your hand upon my ministry, continue to help it grow and prosper and reach into the homes of others to help them build a relationship with you, Lord, and just continue to shine your love and grace down upon them. Be with all those out there now that's suffering from this COVID thing, Lord. I know it's changed the way we've done things, and I don't think this world would ever be the same after this, Lord. It's going to be some major changes being made, and I hope one of those changes, people will put more faith and trust into you to get them through the hard times, Lord. And I pray that what comes out of this, that the good that comes out of this is everyone having a closer relationship with you, the relationship they will be faithful to, not just, oh, it's over and now I'm going back to my old ways, but I pray that people will have a faithful relationship with you after all this is over. And I pray you be with all the small businesses that's suffering right now because they're having to close down because of this, and just be with them and help them make it through. And I pray you be with all the healthcare workers and all those that have to stay out and go and try to actively fight this disease, Lord. Keep them safe and be with them so they don't take these things back to their families, or they themselves don't succumb to it and have to face death because they was trying to help someone else, Lord. Just keep your hand upon us all and help us all see that no matter what's going on, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how bad things are, that you are still in control. I pray you just continue to help us see that and help us live on your promises and help us continue to walk in your ways and serve your purpose and your will with our lives. And more important, Lord, the most important things I pray for is that if there's anyone right now that's watching this video or within the sound of my voice that do not know you as Savior, Lord, I pray that you will send your spirit down upon their heart and humble their heart and open their eyes so they can see the importance of making a decision before it's too late, Lord. I pray you just continue to keep your hand upon them. And if they, I pray you send one of your servants back to serve the gospel with them. But if not, please help them. Give them the courage to reach out to me, Lord, so I can talk to them about the importance of making that decision to put that faith and trust in you. As you just watch over us tonight, let this word go out and touch the hearts of those that need to hear, Lord. And more important, I just pray you just continue to push us forward to do your work and to honor and glorify your holy name. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. And I say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for listening. Pat, appreciate you for being faithful, brother. This has been a blessing, man. It's a real blessing. And Ashley, you as well, and Chris, I'm glad you joined, man. Hope you continue to join in. Monday, I'll be back on here again, Monday at 5 o'clock. I'll be back on here, and we're going to do a story on the life of David, another faithful character from the Bible that we know of that God used in a mighty way. But we're going to actually, kind of like what we did with Samson, we looked at the whole life of Samson, but we're just going to kind of look at the beginning of the life of David. And the title of that lesson is Success of a Christian Life. David, in the beginning of his tenure of serving the Lord, we see what you have to do. We see that's good, Chris. Patrick, you're gonna end up being fat, man. You're gonna be like me. But what we're gonna do is what we're gonna look at is a successful Christian life. David is gonna give us the equation that we need to make sure we have a good, successful Christian life, and that's what we're gonna discover. That's what we're gonna discuss Monday. How you can have a successful Christian life, and it's gonna be based on the life of David. So I love y'all, man. Again, check out my YouTube page, God's. That's God''S servant. / and there's a space between the slash, so it's a space Lost Sheep Ministry. Y'all make sure y'all could check that out. All the videos I posted on there, except for this one. I'll get this on here the next couple of days or so. But all the other ones that I've done is there. And I pray y'all just continue to worship the Lord. Read your Bible. I'm praying y'all reading your Bibles and continue to pray because we need that right now. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, and call out to me, I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. So that's what we need today. That's why I'm doing this. And I thank y'all for being with me. I love y'all all, and I'm praying for you. Have a blessed night.